Chapter 520. Hiss hiss hiss. Wang Zhong took a deep breath. The big-faced cat in front of him was an orange cat. This family didn't have it before, and he didn't know when it came here. At this moment, the big-faced cat was lying on the ground, seemingly taking a nap. But when it saw Wang Zhong, its body suddenly arched. Obviously it was frightened. After it reacted, in Wang Zhong's eyes, the big-faced cat was like a fierce tiger, pouncing on Wang Zhong. Sure enough, a cat was as big as a tiger. In fact, cats and tigers were the same kind of creatures, just different sizes. If a cat was enlarged, it was actually a tiger. Wang Zhong quickly turned his head and ran towards the crack in the door. He felt a sudden pain in his hind leg, as if it was pricked by a needle. Wang Zhong immediately knew that he was hooked by the cat's claws. If he was caught, he would definitely die. He gritted his teeth and struggled to break free. His hind leg was suddenly covered in blood. He was injured. Fortunately, it was already late at night. The door of this family was closed, and the cat couldn't run out. It could only meow. Wang Zhong cursed in his heart. This family was really rich, and they could even afford to raise a cat. After all, ever since the famine, many people had killed their own cats and dogs to eat. People couldn't even afford to eat, let alone feed their cats. And this family could actually afford to raise a cat. They were rich, definitely rich. Little Flower, what are you calling? At this time, the voice of the shopkeeper came from inside the house. After going downstairs, the shopkeeper in the house asked curiously, "Don't tell me there are rats?" Meow meow. There must be rats. Damn it, even rats have become spirits in this world. They stole so much money from me. Little Flower, luckily you're here tonight. Good job. Wang Zhong was speechless at the door. It seemed that the silver in the cabinet had been stolen, and they had found out, so they got a cat from somewhere. Creak. Just then the door opened. The big-faced cat rushed out and looked around vigilantly. Little Flower, find where that cat went. The shopkeeper ran outside and said. The tabby cat seemed to understand. It circled the street but found nothing. Looks like he ran away. Forget it, forget it. Let's go inside. You have to look after the house for me in the future. Seeing the door close, Wang Zhong, who was hiding in a small hole in the corner, heaved a sigh of relief. That was too dangerous. I almost died in the cat's mouth. Wang Zhong thought with lingering fear. He never thought that such a cute kitten would have such a terrifying side. Wang Zhong helplessly returned to the place where he had buried the silver. Fortunately, he had the foresight to bury some silver here in advance. With a portion of the silver in his mouth, Wang Zhong limped back to his residence. The next day, Su Xiaolan burst into tears when she saw the wound on Wang Cheng's leg. Perhaps it was due to this freak combination of factors that the rat became a spirit. However, it only became a lot smarter. In a situation where it didn't have any cultivation techniques, no matter how smart a rat was, it was still just a rat. It was the same for people. Although Su Xiaolan's family had been drinking this spring water, it only made the family grow stronger and less prone to illness. It didn't change the fact that they were still poor. After drinking a few mouthfuls, Wang Zhong was a little full. He didn't care about drinking while cultivating his demonic arts. When the spirit water entered his body, it transformed into spirit energy that quickly circulated throughout his body. Wang Zhong felt warm, and his meridians and bones expanded a little. At the same time, the hind leg that was injured last night also felt numb. The wound was already healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is the power of spirit energy. Wang Zhong was extremely excited. This was all because of his cultivation and the spirit water. Even if a normal person drank this water, they would only feel that it was sweet. So this was the difference. I'm afraid that big rat became so strong because he drank the spirit water here. Wang Zhong sighed in his heart. In such a short while, Su Xiaolan had already filled the bucket to the brim. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and looked back. Seeing Wang Zhong's round belly, she laughed and said, "Why did you drink so much water?" She teased and lifted Wang Zhong up again, casually putting him into her collar. Ancient clothes all had a belt around the waist. After Wang Zhong got into the collar, he could stand on the belt and look outside through the collar. Su Xiaolan had no choice but to do this. The bucket was very heavy, and she had to carry it with both hands. After she was done, Su Xiaolan happily left. When she got home, Su Xiaolan sensibly took her younger brother out to dig for grass. At this time, a skinny little boy ran over. Xiaolan, Xiaolan. Little Li, what's the matter? Xiaolan looked up and asked. Little Li was the neighbor closest to her house. Usually the two families were on good terms. My mother told me to ask if I could borrow some rice, Little Li said embarrassedly. We haven't been late for rice in a long time. I heard that your parents have gone out to work. Do you have rice? My father died early and can't work. My sister is starving to death. I see. Su Xiaolan was kind. She glanced at the grass in her hand and said, Why don't you take these first? As for rice, you'll have to wait for my parents to come back. I don't know why my sister vomits every time she eats grass, Little Li said worriedly. Oh, then I'll get you a bowl of rice. Su Xiaolan was a child after all. Seeing how pitiful he was, she went back into the house and scooped a bowl of rice for him. This bowl of rice was originally for her parents to cook porridge when they came back. Thank you, Xiaolan. You're really a good person, Little Li said gratefully. You're welcome, but remember to return it to my family as soon as possible. Yes, yes, of course. Little Li nodded repeatedly. At this time, he noticed Wang Zhong in the corner behind Su Xiaolan. His eyes instantly widened. Rat. Yes, it's a rat, Su Xiaolan said. My mother caught quite a few rats recently. Rat soup is very delicious. I'll help you catch him. No, this rat is my good friend. Rats steal our food. And you're actually good friends with them? Xiaolan, are you stupid? The child spoke without thinking, and immediately expressed his doubts towards Su Xiaolan's words. TSK, you don't understand. Give me this rat. Squeak, 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 squeak. Wang Zhong cried out anxiously. This little girl was too blunt with her words. If news of him stealing were to spread, it wouldn't be good for them if it were to spread to the family that had been robbed. Hearing Wang Zhong's urgent cries, Su Xiaolan also realized that it wasn't a good idea to talk about him stealing. She vaguely felt that the things Wang Zhong stole every night belonged to other families. If news of this were to spread, wouldn't other families come knocking on their door? Thus she snorted. Anyway, this rat is my good friend. Strange, how can a rat be our good friend? Don't worry about that. All right then. Little Li took the rice and went home. At night, Su Wu and his wife returned. After hearing that Su Xiaolan had lent the rice, Zhou Chui immediately pointed at Su Xiaolan and scolded. Why are you so immature? Why did you lend the rice to others? You're going to piss me off. Saying this, Zhou Chui pulled down Su Xiaolan's pants and started beating her. Woo! Soon, Su Xiaolan was beaten to the point of tears. Su Wu also said unhappily, Xiaolan, you're in the wrong this time. We don't have much rice left. How can we lend it to others? If we lend it to others, what are we going to eat? I won't do it again, Su Xiaolan said in tears. Chapter 521. Sigh, Zhou Chui sighed. She could only go get more rice. There was only a little bit of rice left in the small box. I'm going to starve again, Zhou Chui said helplessly. Xiaolan, you're not allowed to eat tonight. Su Wu scolded. Got it. Su Xiaolan went back to her room and lay down on her bed. This child is too pitiful. Although Wang Zhong didn't approve of Su Xiaolan sharing food with others, when she didn't even have enough to eat herself, it might not be too cruel as a parent. Su Xiaolan climbed onto her bed and sobbed quietly. At this moment, she suddenly felt a furry ball crawl over. Su Xiaolan was pleasantly surprised. Wasn't this the little mouse? Little mouse, Su Xiaolan muttered as she rubbed Wang Zhong's fur. Luckily, Su Xiaolan didn't mind a dirty little mouse at this age. Otherwise, she would have been kicked out of bed long ago. That night, Su Xiaolan went to bed hungry. Early the next morning, Zhou Chui went to see Little Li and asked about his family's situation. Actually, she wanted some rice. However, when she went over, she found out that Little Li's sister had starved to death last night. Sister, my sister is dead, sob, sob, sob. Little Li and his mother wept bitterly. Even the rice that came last night couldn't save his sister's life. Mother, why did Little Li's sister still starve to death after I gave him rice? The young Su Xiaolan asked in confusion. Sigh, when people starve to a certain extent, even if they have food, it's useless. Zhou Chui didn't blame Su Xiaolan for giving him rice this time. After all, she had lost her daughter. In the following days, Wang Zhong cultivated with all his might. 2 months later, he was already about the same age as his mother mouse. However, the situation outside wasn't good. After so long, it still hadn't rained at all. Many people in the village had already died one after another. For example, in Little Li's family next door, after his sister died, his mother hanged herself the next day. After that, no one knew where Little Li went. Half a month later, it was said that Little Li stole steamed buns from a family in town and was beaten to death. Just like that, Little Li's family couldn't afford to return the rice. Sigh, there's no one in Little Li's house. On this day, Su Xiaolan went to dig up some wild vegetables in front of Little Li's house. She heaved a faint sigh when she saw that the door to Little Li's house had been pried open. Now, she couldn't even find the wild herbs and weeds in front of her house. So Su Xiaolan could only come to Little Li's house to try her luck. Just like before, Wang Zhong was placed inside Su Xiaolan's collar. It couldn't be helped. This was the most convenient place on her body. Wang Zhong also mourned for Little Li in his heart. Who would have thought that such a lively child would be gone in a few days? Sigh, there are fewer and fewer grass roots now. Can it be that we can only chew on tree bark? To be honest, Su Xiaolan didn't like the taste of tree bark. Especially after eating tree bark, her younger brother would have a stomachache and cry a lot. Now, her younger brother would cry whenever he saw tree bark. Naturally, she didn't like to chew on tree bark. Every time she ate it, her stomach would feel bloated, and she couldn't even defecate. Over time, she knew that eating tree bark wasn't good for people. These days, the price of food on the streets kept rising. So the silver pieces that Wang Zhong stole were used up very quickly. Now Wang Zhong was also very helpless. These days, he went to a few houses on the streets, but the silver was very well hidden and difficult to find. At this time, Su Xiaolan looked up at the sky. Little mouse, the sun is going to set soon, but we can't find any grass roots today. What should we do? Big sister, I'm hungry. Su Xiaoqiang ran over barefooted, clutching his stomach. Isn't there still some vegetable soup at home? I've finished eating, but I'm still hungry. Sigh. Su Xiaolan grabbed a small handful of grass roots and said, I'll cook for you when we get back. Okay. Su Xiaolan held her younger brother's hand and walked home. After cooking diligently, Su Xiaolan looked at the sky outside. The sun had already set, but for some reason, her parents hadn't come back yet. Big sister, I'm hungry, Su Xiaoqiang said, rubbing his stomach. Sigh, you eat first. Su Xiaolan scooped a bowl of grassroot soup for her younger brother. After eating, Su Xiaoqiang rubbed his eyes and climbed onto the bed to rest. Rumble. At this time, Su Xiaolan's stomach also growled. She ate very little to begin with, and with a lot of work, it was inevitable that she was very hungry. But even so, she would still insist on waiting for her parents to come home. But after waiting for a long time, her parents still hadn't come back. Wang Zhong estimated that it should be about 8 or 9 o'clock at this time. Usually, the couple would be back before 7 o'clock. But today, what was going on? For a moment, Wang Zhong had an ominous premonition in his heart. He returned to the mouse nest. The mother mouse and a few little mice greeted Wang Zhong and ate the wolf meat that was dragged into the hole. Recently, there was a drought, and many people died of hunger and thirst. The animals in the forest actually didn't have it easy either. Look, this wolf died of thirst because there was no water. Old Third, do you want some? There's still a lot of meat, the mother mouse asked Wang Zhong. Because Wang Zhong was the third to be born, everyone now called him Old Third. Okay. Wang Zhong casually ate a few mouthfuls, then went out of the hole to take a look. What was disappointing was that Su Wu and his wife hadn't returned yet. This wait lasted until the middle of the night. In the dark house, there was no one. Su Xiaolan sat on the table. Darkness, loneliness, cold, hunger, and negative emotions hit her in the face. She suddenly sobbed. Sob, 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 father and mother are gone. The little girl seemed to have sensed danger. At this time, her parents still hadn't returned. Something must have happened. Sob, sob. Su Xiaolan wiped her tears. In the darkness, a furry little mouse climbed onto her thigh. This mouse was naturally Wang Zhong. He saw Su Xiaolan crying, so he came over to comfort her. Little mouse, why aren't my parents back yet? Wang Zhong sighed in his heart. What could he say? It was obvious that something had happened to Su Xiaolan's parents. At this time, Wang Zhong himself was also quite anxious. Su Xiaolan was still too young, and she had a younger brother. If her parents really finished their apprenticeship, this would be troublesome. Perhaps she was tired from crying. Su Xiaolan lay on the table and fell asleep. This child, isn't she afraid of catching a cold? Wang Zhong jumped onto the table and silently recited the demonic technique incantation. A faint demonic aura gradually spread out. This demonic aura wanted to cover Su Xiaolan's body and warm her up a little. However, as soon as the demonic aura spread out, Wang Zhong felt weak and powerless. As expected, it still doesn't work. The cultivation time was really too short, and he didn't have a unique physique like the mouse, so the demonic aura was very weak. Gritting his teeth, Wang Zhong poured out the demonic aura with all his might. This time, the amount of demonic aura was very small, like silk, giving Su Xiaolan a little warmth. Su Xiaolan slept very soundly and warmly. Before she knew it, the sky was bright. Dad, Mom, why don't leave me, don't. In a daze, Su Xiaolan murmured in her sleep with her eyes closed. In her dream, her parents were captured and beaten to death by starving refugees on their way back. She cried and begged those people not to beat them. She could take out all the food in the house, but those refugees didn't listen and still beat them with all their might. Just like that, her parents were beaten to death. Dad, Mom. Su Xiaolan shuddered and woke up from her dream. Her arms were numb, and it made her very uncomfortable. She rubbed her stomach. Although she didn't eat anything last night, after a night, because she was too hungry, she wasn't hungry anymore. However, she was weak all over. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Wang Zhong called out to her twice, then pushed the wild grass root soup on the table over, telling her to eat. Su Xiaolan understood and nodded, then ate. At this moment, she suddenly thought of something and hurriedly turned around. His parents' small house was empty. They didn't come home last night. Thump, thump, thump. At this moment, the sound of messy footsteps came from the door. Xiaolan, Xiaolan. The voice belonged to the village chief. The village chief was very old, in his 50s, but his steps were very fast. He rushed in and shouted, Xiaolan, something happened to your parents. As expected. Wang Zhong hid at the edge of the stove, so the village chief didn't see him. Su Xiaolan's eyes glistened with tears. What happened to my parents? Something happened at the quarry. Rocks fell down. Wah. Your dad, your mom is still there. Right, where's your brother? My big brother went to the county town to work. Do you know where he is? Su Xiaolan shook her head. Then forget it. Your mom told you to take care of your brother and not run around. She'll come back when she's done. As the village chief spoke, he gave Su Xiaolan a gold ingot inside. This is your father's funeral expenses, Sai. After a few words of advice, the village chief left. My dad is gone. Su Xiaolan started to cry. Su Xiaoqiang rubbed his eyes and squatted in front of Su Xiaolan. He was still young and didn't understand the meaning of Su Xiaolan's words. But when he saw Su Xiaolan cry, he couldn't help but cry too. Just like that, the siblings started to cry in grief. Sigh, when it rains, it pours. I didn't expect Su Xiaolan's father to die so early. Seeing the siblings crying, Wang Zhong couldn't help but sigh. This family's life was already so difficult. Now that the pillar of their family died, what would they do in the future? That night, the men in the village helped to carry Su Wu's body back. Before they reached the door, they heard Zhou Chui crying. Father, what am I going to do without you? Wah, what am I going to do? It was really heartbreaking to hear and tearing to hear. Su Xiaoqiang chased out of the house with Su Xiaolan holding his hand. Su Wu died very miserably. There was a big hole in his head from the falling rock. He probably died on the spot. A day later, Zhou Chui simply buried Su Wu in the back of the mountain and erected a tombstone. Su Wu's grave. This time, Su Wu died, and the other side only gave them a gold ingot. Although Zhou Chui wanted more, the other side outnumbered them. How could a little girl like her deal with them? What made Zhou Chui even more helpless was that after Su Wu died, the other side didn't want a woman like her to work. Their family had no income. Chapter 522. Fortunately, this family had saved up a sum of money recently. Although they couldn't farm anymore, Zhou Chui was quite capable. She used the money to buy some grain seeds. It was finally cloudy these few days, and it started to drizzle. This made many people cry tears of joy, and they started to plant grain. Xiaolan Xiaochang, although your father has left, he will definitely bless us from the heavens. It's raining now, so we can start farming tomorrow. Holding her son, Su Xiaochang, in her arms, Zhou Chui looked forward to the future and continued. Your big brother is working well outside. He'll come back tomorrow, and he'll give you good food to eat. Su Xiaolan sat on a small stool and rested her chin on her hand. Many children in the village have disappeared. Sigh. Zhou Chui let out another long sigh. In this drought, not only did the children disappear, but many adults also starved to death. If it weren't for the fact that their family relied on grass roots and tree bark to eat, they would probably have starved to death long ago. While they were sighing, Wang Zhong had been training in the rat's nest for the past few days. As the mice all grew up, the other mice all settled down in their own nests. Even the mother mouse found a new nest. Only Wang Zhong still lived here. Demonic qi pervaded his body, and he swallowed the spirit water in his mouth. In an instant, he felt a miraculous chemical reaction between his body and the spirit water. An endless power surged into his limbs and bones. I've broken through. Wang Zhong's eyes focused, and he suddenly stood up. However, he forgot that this was a mouse hole, and if he stood up, he would knock his head on the ground. Ouch! Sure enough, Wang Zhong knocked his head on the ground, causing him to grimace in pain. However, he soon became excited. He could walk upright. Although his form was still that of a mouse, this was a good start. As he continued to cultivate, he would be able to speak human language one day, and then start to transform into a human form. Then, he walked out of the mouse hole and ran towards the spring water. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Wang Zhong drank a mouthful and suddenly felt his teeth itch. He glanced at a piece of wood beside him and bit down on it. Crunch, crunch. A high-quality branch was bitten off by him just like that. What fierce teeth! At this moment, Wang Zhong himself was shocked. Who would have thought that a little mouse like him would have such good teeth? It was like a vice. The next day, the rain finally stopped, and the previously dry and cracked ground finally regained its vitality. The ground was full of water, and the soil became soft and moist. The land can finally be planted. Standing in her family's field, Zhou Chui's face was full of smiles. Mother, I'm back. At this time, Su Daqiang returned. Su Daqiang had always been working outside. Although he didn't earn much, he could at least make ends meet. Every month, he could earn a bit more money. He brought back 3 sesame seed cakes this time. Su Xiaolan and Su Xiaoqiang drooled at the sight of the sesame seed cakes. Dachang, it's raining here. We can start farming soon. Zhou Chui said happily when she saw how smart her eldest son was. Su Daqiang smiled and said, Yes, but mother, I'm not farming anymore. Then you'll continue working? Yes, I'm going to learn how to do business. The boss of the place where I work is in the cloth business. I'm going to buy cloth and bring it back to sell. Su Daqiang had traveled extensively, so his mind was relatively flexible, and he had many ideas. Buy cloth? Where are you going to get the money? Su Daqiang sighed and said, Father's gone, so there's a sum of money for his funeral. You're thinking about Yuan Bao? Zhou Chui's expression changed. Mother, father's gone, but we still have to live. My friend said that we can work together to buy cloth and sell it. We'll definitely make a lot of money. This? Zhou Chui was a bit hesitant. In theory, she believed in her eldest son. However, to suddenly take out the family's wealth, especially when it was obtained through the death of her husband, made her a bit hesitant. What if we lose money? Zhou Chui asked. We won't lose money. Don't worry, I've worked outside for so long. I know how to make cloth, and what good cloth is. Let me think about it. Okay, mother, you think about it first. I'll go plow the fields for you. Zhou Chui thought about it for a long time. In the end, on the third day, she still gave yuan bao to Su Daqiang. Daqiang, you're now the pillar of our Su family. You must hide yuan bao well. When Su Daqiang left, Zhou Chui said earnestly, "Don't worry, mother. I'll definitely come back with a lot of money." Su Daqiang took the yuan bao and a few sesame seed cakes and left the poor little village. In the blink of an eye, Su Xiaolan was 9 years old. Her younger brother, Su Xiaoqiang, was also like Su Xiaolan back then. He could do laundry, cook, and work. Unfortunately, ever since Su Daqiang left that year, he never came back. 3 months later, Zhou Chui even went to the place where Su Daqiang used to work to ask them. The result was that Su Daqiang never came back since the last time he came back. They also didn't know where Su Daqiang went. My son ran away. After returning home, Zhou Chui cried very hard. After that, she washed her face with tears almost every day. It took her a long time to recover. The difficult years were finally over. On this day, Wang Zhong found that the mother rat was also dying. The lifespan of an ordinary rat was generally 2 to 3 years. After so many years, the mother rat was indeed old. "Asan, you're my smartest child. You can actually be friends with humans. But no matter how smart you are, you still have to remember to find a wife. The female rats next door like you so much, why don't you?" "Mother, I don't want to find one for the time being," Wang Zhong said helplessly. "Sai, you're not young anymore." The mother rat lay on the ground and said weakly. Then the mother rat stopped breathing. "Sai, mother, rest in peace. It's not that I don't want to find a female rat, but it's really because I'm not a real rat." Wang Zhong sighed. Late at night, he dragged the mother rat outside and buried her. The next day, Zhou Chui was preparing to go to the ground when suddenly, a middle-aged man sneakily came to the door. He smiled at Zhou Chui and said, "Chui, are going to work?" At this moment, Su Xiaolan was hugging Wang Zhong and talking. When she saw the person, she walked out. "Ergo, what are you doing here?" Zhou Chui asked. "I know that a woman like you is tired from working, so I came to give you a hand." Zhou Chui shook her head warily. "No need. Look at you, don't you believe me or what?" Saying that, he smiled at Su Xiaolan and said, "Xiaolan, Xiao Chong, look at what I brought you." In his hand was a meat bun. The two siblings obviously didn't like this man called Erga very much, because these days, this person liked to come over and get close to their mother. Wang Zhong had been here all this time, so he naturally knew this person. This person was called Huang Ergu, from the village. When there was a famine, he brought his wife and children out to make a living. After that, it rained, but only he came back. Later, it was said that this was because his wife and children were sold by him. After Huang Ergu lost his wife, he naturally had designs on other women. After Su Wu died, he set his sights on Zhou Chui, coming over to ask about her well-being from time to time. Unfortunately, Huang Ergu's reputation was bad. Many people knew that during the famine, he sold his wife and children. His wife was sold to the orphanage, and his son was sold to the cleansing room to become a eunuch. Naturally, no one would pay attention to such a person. However, he was shameless. Zhou Chui didn't pay attention to him, but he still came over to pester her. Su Xiaochang was still immature. Seeing that there was food, his little hand reached out. Fortunately, at this moment, Su Xiaolan stopped her brother and said, "Don't eat." "Hey, this girl, your uncle Ergu is a good person," Huang Ergu said with a smile. "Huang Ergu, I'm going out to work. Don't come over if you have nothing to do. Otherwise, the villagers will gossip," Zhou Chui said coldly. "Look at you, Chui I Ergu, am a straightforward person. I don't care if I like you. Go, I'm not getting married." Saying that, Zhou Chui locked the door and left with Su Xiaolan and her brother without looking back. *CK. I gave her face, but she didn't take it. Behind them, Huang Ergu cursed in a low voice. Chapter 523. Chui it looks like that old bastard Ergu is bothering you again? Once they arrived at the field, a woman from the village came over to greet them. Zhou Chui cursed behind her back. "That old bastard. I feel disgusted just by looking at him. That's right, he even sold his wife and son. This kind of person deserves to die without any descendants." Just ignore him. Zhou Chui nodded. Of course I know. However, you have to be careful. That old bastard definitely won't give up. You're a woman, so you have to close your door properly. Sai, I know. If he dares to do anything, I'll fight him to the death. Su Xiaolan was planting beans on the side. Although she didn't say anything, she understood what the two adults were talking about. She couldn't help but look down at Wang Zhong. Little mouse, why is that annoying Huang Erge bothering us? So annoying. Wang Zhong was in the middle of cultivating. Hearing this, he could only squeak a few times. However, his voice now had a bit more timbre than before. It was starting to sound more human. After a day of work, Zhou Chui frowned. As soon as she arrived at the door, she saw a drunk Huang Erge standing at the door and looking at her lecherously. Huang Erge, what are you doing at my door? Zhou Chui questioned. If you don't leave now, I'm going to tell the village chief. In a small mountain village like this, because it was far away from the yamen, the village chief was basically the one who dealt with any crimes. Huang Erge chuckled. I'm just concerned about you, okay? Go away. Seriously, you don't know how to appreciate my kindness. I like you so much. I don't need your love. What are you asking for a beating? Be careful, or I'll beat you up. The drunk Huang Erge was staggering as he walked. His eyes were red as he grabbed at Zhou Chui. Don't bully my mother. Su Xiaolan pushed Huang Erge away. Oh ho, you're quite arrogant. Huang Erge grabbed Su Xiaolan's hair and shouted at Zhou Chui. I don't care, you have to marry me. I don't have a wife anyway, and your husband is dead. If you don't marry me, I'll kill you. Let go of my child. Seeing her daughter being beaten, Zhou Chui immediately rushed out. You're courting death. Huang Erge kicked Zhou Chui in the stomach. Zhou Chui was kicked to the ground and rolled around in pain. I'm asking you, are you going to marry or not? Huang Erge cursed. Wah. Su Xiaolan was so scared that she began to cry. Needless to say, Su Xiaochang had long been scared stiff and did not dare to move. At this moment, Huang Erge noticed that a black thing suddenly shot out from Su Xiaolan's collar. What is this? The black ball pounced onto Huang Erge's shoulder and bit down. F***ck, it's a rat. Huang Erge didn't think that there would be something like a rat in Su Xiaolan's collar. With a crunch, a chunk of flesh was bitten off from Huang Erge's shoulder. He grimaced in pain as he held his shoulder and retreated. Mother! Su Xiaolan supported Zhou Chui and retreated with Su Xiaoqiang. Huang Erge looked at his shoulder in horror. There was a bloody hole there, and it looked extremely hideous. Wow. Wow. You actually raised rats to bite me. I'm going to teach you a lesson. Just you wait. Now that he was injured, Huang Erge didn't dare to stay any longer. He turned around and ran. Xiaolan, was that really a rat? Zhou Chui asked anxiously as soon as she got home. Mother, that rat is my friend. After Su Xiaolan said this, Wang Zhong walked out from the door and jumped onto Su Xiaolan's lap. Zhou Chui was dumbfounded. How could a rat be so obedient? She suddenly remembered that her daughter had told her about rats bringing silver to her. Thus she hurriedly asked about it. It really did bring the silver to me. It's a good rat. Okay, this is the blessing of the heavens. Hearing this, Zhou Chui was no longer afraid of Wang Zhong. Instead, after she finished cooking, she left an empty bowl for Wang Zhong to eat. Xiaolan, why isn't that rat bringing silver to us anymore? Su Xiaolan shook her head, indicating that she didn't know. Mother, why is that uncle bullying us? Su Xiaoqiang cried. Sai, this guy. I'll have to talk to the village chief tomorrow. After eating, Wang Zhong thought that with Huang Erge's personality, this matter wouldn't end well. Thus, he directly jumped off the table. Where did the little rat go? Su Xiaoqiang shouted. Brother, it's fine. The little rat probably went to pee. He's very smart, Su Xiaolan said. After cultivating, Wang Zhong's speed was even faster than before. He quickly traversed through the fields and soon arrived at Huang Erge's house. This guy was currently bandaging his wounds with a cloth. As he bandaged them, he cursed. F***ck, I won't fall out with you for now. If you still don't want to marry me tomorrow, I'll go report it to the authorities and say that you guys beat me up. Let's see what you'll do then. So that's what this guy was planning. Wang Zhong sneered in his heart. He wanted nothing more than to go over and bite him to death. However, that was obviously impossible. Although he was no longer an ordinary rat, he still didn't have any outstanding physical strength. At most, he had good teeth and fast claws. However, if he were to meet a human, he would be trampled to death with a single stomp. He was only able to injure Huang Ergu previously because he caught him off guard. If they really fought now, Huang Ergu only needed to grab him and throw him to the ground. He would be smashed to death. Thus, Wang Zhong decided to wait. Soon, Huang Ergu lay down on the bed and fell asleep. Wang Zhong saw an opportunity and quietly jumped onto the bed. He aimed at Huang Ergu's neck and bit down. Ah! Huang Ergu groaned and clutched at the blood flowing out of his veins. He cried out in pain. In a daze, he saw a black shadow in the darkness. He was very familiar with this shadow. It was a rat. The rat bit me. Unfortunately, no one heard his voice. Wang Zhong rummaged through Huang Ergu's house. Unfortunately, there was nothing. He was even poorer than Su Xiaolan's house. You want to get married when you're so poor? Tui. Wang Zhong wagged his tail and left. The next day, originally, Zhou Chui wanted to tidy up the house and go to the village chief to complain. After all, she was a woman. If Huang Ergu really wanted to harass her, she would be in a lot of trouble. However, she didn't expect that when she passed by Huang Ergu's house with her 2 children, she would find that it was surrounded by a lot of people. Huang Ergu is dead. Something bit a big hole in his neck. His blood has all dried up. Zhou Chui heard this from afar. They hurriedly ran over to take a look. At this moment, Huang Ergu had just been carried out. His eyes were wide open, and his hands were clutching at his neck. His body was already stiff. Su Xiaolan and Su Xiaoqiang didn't go over. Instead, they looked at Huang Ergu's corpse in the crowd. After hearing that there was a big hole in his neck, she suddenly thought of something and hurriedly ran over to a tree. Little rat, did you do it? Su Xiaolan asked. Wang Zhong opened his mouth and nodded. You're so good. Su Xiaolan kissed Wang Zhong happily. Now that Huang Ergu was dead, no one would dare to bully their family anymore. After returning home, Zhou Chui closed the door and said to the 2 children, Xiaolan, take out the rat. Su Xiaolan reluctantly took out the little rat. Zhou Chui reminded them, remember, no one can tell anyone that we're rearing rats. As expected of an adult, after seeing Huang Ergu's corpse, Zhou Chui immediately thought of Wang Zhong. After all, Wang Zhong had bitten Huang Ergu once yesterday. Mother, what's wrong? Su Xiaolan asked. Did the rat go out last night? Su Xiaolan nodded. You're saying that it was the little mouse that bit. Shisho. Zhou Chui hurriedly said, be quiet. If news of this gets out, it won't be good for our family. What if the government comes to arrest us? Su Xiaolan nodded obediently and said to her little brother, Little brother, you can't tell anyone about the rat. I know, Su Xiaoqiang said. After that, the family of 3 once again returned to their normal harmony. The harvest in the fields was getting better and better each day. On this day, Su Xiaolan went to the spring to fetch water again. At this time, Wang Zhong jumped onto her shoulder. Little rat, what are you doing? Su Xiaolan muttered to herself. However, in the next instant, she was dumbfounded. This was because Wang Zhong had spoken. Xiaolan. Wang Zhong spoke in human language. Ah, Su Xiaolan was given a fright due to her shock. After coming to her senses, Su Xiaolan was even more scared. You spoke? Xiaolan, I can speak now, Wang Zhong said speechlessly. He had originally thought that Su Xiaolan would hug him and cheer happily after hearing him speak. However, he didn't expect her to be so scared that she almost peed herself. She didn't even know that she had kicked the bucket over. How can you speak? Su Xiaolan was incredulous. Xiaolan, actually, I ate a natural treasure. That's why I can speak. Wang Zhong casually explained. He didn't say that he was a demon. People in this era were very simple-minded and were especially afraid of demons and ghosts. He was worried that if he said that he was a demon, Su Xiaolan would be even more scared. So he used this euphemism. I ate something good once. After that, I could understand you guys. I can even speak now. As he spoke, Wang Zhong skipped over to her. Don't be scared. Don't you trust me? At this time, Su Xiaolan gradually recovered from her shock. She tilted her head and thought to herself, yeah, what am I scared of? Isn't it better that the little rat can speak? After spending so much time with Wang Zhong, Su Xiaolan had long since regarded Wang Zhong as a friend. What's your name? Su Xiaolan asked. I've known you for so long, but I still don't know your name. My name is Asan. I was born third. Asan, don't you have a surname? How about you take my surname? Susan, okay? So that's how my name came about? Wang Zhong was very surprised. He nodded and said, okay. After that, the two of them chatted for a long time. After getting the bucket of water, Wang Zhong reminded her, don't tell anyone that I can speak, okay? Okay. Su Xiaolan nodded and whispered, I know. Oh right. Where did the silver you stole come from? Chapter 524. Wang Zhong explained the ins and outs of the money, then said, unfortunately, when I went to take it again, there was an extra cat there. I couldn't handle the cat, so I didn't take it. No wonder you didn't steal any money after that. That's called taking. Those unscrupulous merchants specialize in swindling people. So what if I took some? Wang Zhong said righteously. Hee, that's true. Su Xiaolan laughed heartlessly. Wang Zhong continued. After that, I went to other houses, but it was difficult to enter. Some of them didn't have much money, so I didn't take it. Oh, that's too dangerous. We have food now, so you don't have to take it. Yes, we can actually work together when we have time. How? Su Xiaolan was curious. I'll teach you this in the future. Wang Zhong stood up with his hind legs on the ground and walked in front of Su Xiaolan. Next, you'll have to start learning. Learning? That's right. You're not young anymore, so you have to learn how to read and write. As the saying goes, knowledge can change your fate. You don't want to stay in this small place for the rest of your life, right? I want to. Wang Zhong. Sure enough, the mindset of the ancients was to eat enough, wear warm clothes, and have a place to live. Wang Zhong said, for example, with knowledge, you can learn many useful things, such as how to farm better, how to reason with people, and even recite poems. Su Xiaolan's eyes widened. Recite poems? Isn't that what scholars do? We girls don't need that. This sigh. If you can read and write, at least in the future, rich families will take a liking to you. In any case, it's good for you to learn more. But we're so poor. How can rich families take a liking to me? Su Xiaolan's face was red, and she continued to talk about her principles. I heard from my mother that between husband and wife, it's about matching social status. Our family is so poor, those rich families won't like me. She was really brain dead. Wang Zhong explained helplessly. But if you study, when you go out to sell eggs in the future, can't you count? After that, you'll be able to settle accounts with your small business, right? After being reminded by Wang Zhong, Su Xiaolan felt as if she had been struck by lightning. That's right. I didn't know that studying had so many benefits. Sigh, you child. Little mouse, you are so smart. Su Xiaolan thought this through, and walked back with the water bottle in her hand. In the following days, whenever Su Xiaolan was free, Wang Zhong would write on the ground. After all, Wang Zhong had been living in ancient times for a long time, so he was very familiar with ancient characters. Thus, he taught Su Xiaolan how to write. Other than that, he taught her how to count. 1 + 1 = 2. Then let me ask you, what is 10 + 10? 10 + 10. Su Xiaolan began to count with her two little hands. In the end, she realized that 2 hands weren't enough, so she hurriedly took off her shoes and started counting her toes. Wang Zhong stomped on Su Xiaolan's foot in anger. Do you still need to use your fingers? Use the mental arithmetic I taught you. Mental calculation. Let me try. Su Xiaolan was scolded to the point that she didn't have any temper left. Because the busy farming season was over, Su Xiaoqiang went to play with the other children in the village, while Su Xiaolan was studying. Right at this moment, Su Xiaoqiang ran back crying. Big sister, big sister. Whoa. Wang Zhong took a closer look. For some reason, Su Xiaoqiang's face was swollen. Little brother, what's wrong? Su Xiaolan hurriedly ran over. I was playing with Zhang Hua. Fat Cow bullied me. Fat Cow, why did he bully you? Su Xiaolan frowned. Fat Cow was the king of the children in the village. He looked strong, but his temper wasn't good at all. He liked to bully people. He said I can't play with Zhang Hua. Who does he think he is? Su Xiaolan said angrily. However, after her anger subsided, she couldn't do anything. Fat Cow had a father. If the two families really quarreled, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Just as they were talking, Fat Cow walked over from afar and shouted, Su Xiaoqiang, why are you running? Fat Cow, what are you doing here? Su Xiaolan asked. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Fat Cow had grown even stronger. He smiled and said, I came to take a look. Xiaoqiang and Zhang Hua said that your family has a divine mouse that can understand human language, so I came to take a look. At this moment, Wang Zhong was hiding in the bushes. He felt a little helpless. This Su Xiaoqiang really couldn't do anything right. He had already promised not to tell others about him, but he still told others. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes and said, Xiaoqiang and his friends said it casually. You believe that? Have you ever seen anyone raise a mouse? That's true. Fat Cow nodded. Suddenly, he realized that Su Xiaolan was actually quite good-looking. When she was young, Su Xiaolan looked very weak and skinny. However, now that she was taller, she was actually slender and elegant. Xiaolan, are you going to catch a porcupine later? Fat Cow asked. No, I still have work to do. Then I'll call you next time. Fat Cow turned and ran off. Wang Zhong was very displeased. It wasn't because Fat Cow wanted to ask Su Xiaolan out, but he was thinking that Fat Cow seemed to be interested in Su Xiaolan and would often come to harass her in the future. What should he do then? These years he often ran around the village, so he heard a lot of rumors. This Fat Cow's family was like a bully in the village. It could be said that they were second only to the village chief. Sometimes, even the village chief had to give them some face. This was very common in every village. This kind of bully really gave people a headache. For example, this Fat Cow had the same personality as his father and uncle. Not only did he like to bully people, but he also liked to flirt with some girls. This caused many villagers to talk behind their backs. At night, Wang Zhong quietly came to Fat Cow's house. Fat Cow's family was eating. His father was also a burly man. He said in a deep voice, Fat Cow, you'll be 15 years old in 3 or 4 years. It's about time for you to get married. Which girl in the village do you like? Fat Cow's family was quite well off. He ate a piece of red braised pork and said, Father, I used to like Zhang Hua. However, after seeing Su Xiaolan today, she's really pretty. Su Xiaolan? Her father is gone. What do we need her for? Can beauty feed us? I think Zhang Hua is not bad. She's fat. In the future, we'll have one more person to work for us. Fat Cow frowned and said, But Su Xiaolan is pretty. I want to kiss her when I see her. You work hard to earn money. In the future, you can marry her as a concubine. Fat Cow's father said disdainfully, Although our family's conditions are not good, she's a little girl without a father. It's already not bad that she can marry into our family. That's true. Fat Cow nodded in agreement. Wang Zhong, who was hiding in the corner, cursed this father and son in his heart. Finally, the two of them fell asleep. Only then did Wang Zhong quietly enter the house. Wang Zhong had been to the Niu family before. However, at that time, there was a famine, and the people of the Niu family seemed to have fled. After the famine passed, the Niu family returned. Not only did they not become poor, but they were also quite rich. Thus, Wang Zhong guessed that they had silver. Originally, Wang Zhong did not want to steal these people's silver, because they were all poor people in the village. However, this Niu family was too dishonest. Then he would teach them a lesson. Very quickly, Wang Zhong found a wooden box in Fat Cow's father's room. It seemed to have been hidden very well. It was actually hidden under the bed. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Wang Zhong's strong teeth bit down a few times. Very quickly, a large hole was bitten through the wooden box. As expected, there was actually a lot of broken silver in this box. Wang Zhong carried several pieces of broken silver in one go, and moved them all out. Little mouse, you brought the silver. Early the next morning, Su Xiaolan's face was full of disbelief, as she looked at the several dozen pieces of broken silver on the bed. At this time, Zhou Chui and Su Xiaoqiang had gone out. Wang Zhong could speak without worry. He said softly, "These things belong to the Niu family." Fat Cow's family? Su Xiaolan was shocked. "Isn't that so?" I eavesdropped on him talking to his father, saying something about wanting to take you as a concubine. I couldn't take it anymore, so I stole from his house. Want me to be a concubine? This guy really dares to dream, Su Xiaolan said angrily. That's why I stole it. Hide the silver. Also, you can't tell your brother about me. And I know. Su Xiaolan nodded. Yesterday, her brother had actually told her about Wang Zhong in order to chase after Zhang Hua. After returning home, she had scolded her brother. In order to prevent her brother from being unable to keep his mouth shut, she felt that these things really could not be told to her brother. In these few days, the Niu family did not seem to have discovered that their silver had disappeared. Only 5 days later, did the Niu family spread the news that the silver that they had painstakingly saved up had been stolen. Mouse. It was a mouse that ate the wooden box I hid the silver in and stole it. F***ck, if I catch this mouse, I'll definitely cut him into 1,000 pieces. Fat Cow's father cursed angrily. From then on, Fat Cow quieted down a lot. Because the family had no more silver, he had to follow his father out to work every day. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Su Xiaolan had reached the age of 16. Although Su Xiaoqiang, who was only 2 years younger than Su Xiaolan, was only 14 years old, he was already very sturdy. On this day, Su Xiaoqiang and Su Xiaolan packed up some rice and prepared to push it with their mother, Zhou Chui, to the county town to sell. After arriving at the county town, business was pretty good today. In half a day they had sold out all the rice. The family of 3 all had happy smiles on their faces. At this time, a group of people walked over from the street. At the front was a young man wearing embroidered clothes. Beside him were maids and servants. His majestic appearance showed that he was either rich or noble. Make way, young Master Zhao is here. Don't block the way. 2 servants walked in front to open the way for the man in embroidered clothes. When the young man passed by Su Xiaolan's stall, Zhou Chui suddenly froze. Zhao Diyong. Zhao Diyong turned his head and saw Zhou Chui. He frowned and asked, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" Zhou Chui walked over and grabbed Zhao Diyong's arm with trembling hands. Zhao Diyong, it's me. I'm Su Xiaoqiang's mother. Didn't Su Xiaoqiang say that he was going to do business with you? Why are you still here? Where's Su Xiaoqiang? Chapter 525. Oh, so you're Su Dechang's mother. Zhao Diyong's face was obviously not looking too good. He replied, Su Dechang did say that we were going to do business together. But he said he wasn't going. After that, I don't know where he went either. What? How is that possible? He clearly said that he went with you. I even gave my son a gold ingot. That gold ingot was exchanged with his father's life. You must know where my son is. Tell me, are you hiding something from me? Zhou Chui became more and more agitated as she spoke. She pulled on Zhao Diyong's clothes and refused to let him leave. Are you crazy? What does it have to do with me if you can't find your son? Get out of my way. Zhao Diyong snorted and kicked Zhou Chui away. Why did you kick my mother? Su Xiaoqiang was young and hot-blooded. He didn't understand the concept of where there's life, there's hope, and rushed over to beat Zhao Diyong up. Zhao Diyong snorted. You're just like your brother. Beat him up. A few servants behind Zhao Diyong rushed over. Don't hit him, don't hit him. Su Xiaolan hurriedly tried to stop them, but even she was kicked away. She fell to the ground and howled in pain as she clutched her stomach. In an instant, many people surrounded them and pointed at them. Unfortunately, no one came to help. Don't hit him, don't hit my son. He's my only son. Zhou Chui cried as she lay on top of the dying Su Xiaoqiang. Seeing that Su Xiaoqiang was already vomiting blood, Zhao Diyong was also worried that he would get into trouble. He snorted and said, Be more observant in the future. Your son's disappearance has nothing to do with me. After saying this, Zhao Diyong left with his men. Mother. Su Xiaoqiang muttered as he vomited blood. I'm fine, mother. Su Xiaolan rushed over, and the family cried together. Wang Zhong naturally didn't know what was happening here. He was currently at a crucial moment in cultivating his demonic energy. He lay on the edge of the spring with his eyes closed. A faint trace of spirit energy quickly entered his body. There's probably something extraordinary under the spring, Wang Zhong secretly guessed. This was the only way to explain why there was such an abundance of spirit energy in the spring. At this moment, a snake slowly slithered over from the top of the tree, spitting out its forked tongue. Wang Zhong turned his head. The snake's cold gaze was as if it was looking at a delicious meal. All of a sudden, Wang Zhong leapt up and landed on a tree. The snake was stunned. Obviously, in its mind, it was hard to imagine how an ordinary little mouse could be so powerful. But no matter how powerful it was, rats were just ordinary food to it. It suddenly bit at Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong continued to jump and ran out in a few steps. After landing on the outskirts of the forest, Wang Zhong quickly returned home. In the blink of an eye, the snake lost sight of Wang Zhong. Looks like I don't have to be afraid of these creatures anymore. Wang Zhong leaned against the wall and thought to himself. He recalled the battle of wits and courage with the snake. He could feel the fear of this natural enemy in his blood. But now he was no longer afraid. If the snake wanted to deal with him, he could easily escape. However, it was still very difficult to kill this snake. The natural difference in strength made it difficult for even the demon rats to deal with this natural enemy. Just as he was resting, the door was suddenly opened. Su Xiaolan helped Zhou Chui into the house, followed by Su Xiaochang. This Zhao Diyong must know something. Xiaolan, he must know. I know what kind of person your brother is. He was as filial as you since he was young. He couldn't have taken the gold ingot and left. He must have been set up by someone. Zhou Chui began to analyze. Back then, De Chang said that he and Zhao Diyong went out to buy goods. I've seen this Zhao Diyong before. At that time they were very close. But now, he's treating us like this. It must be Zhao Diyong. This Zhao Diyong must have taken the silver. That's why he's so rich. PFFF. Just as she finished speaking, Su Xiaochang fell to the ground and vomited blood. Son! Zhou Chui hurriedly helped Su Xiaochang up, but he had already fainted. I'll call the doctor. Su Xiaolan hurriedly ran out. The doctor quickly came over. After examining Su Xiaochang, he frowned and said, It seems that his internal organs have been injured. I'll prescribe some medicine. Once it's done, give it to him orally. Don't let him do any heavy work. Okay. Zhou Chui nodded repeatedly. After that, Su Xiaolan went to the city. When she left, she brought Wang Zhong with her. Su Xiaolan knew from her childhood that there was no one she could really talk to. Only this little mouse could discuss things with her. Xiaolan, when we go to the city later, ask around about Zhao Diyong's house. I'll go investigate. Okay, you must be careful. Those rich families all have cats. Don't worry about that. The two of them arrived at the city. After asking around, they found out that Zhao Diyong was now known as shopkeeper Zhao. In the past, he was just a lowly servant. For some reason, he went out of the province and came back rich. After that, Zhao Diyong seemed to have hit the jackpot. First he opened a cloth shop. Then he opened 2 more shops. In just a few short years, Zhao Diyong went from an ordinary servant to shopkeeper Zhao. Su-san, this is Zhao Diyong's house. I'm counting on you. Su Xiaolan put Wang Zhong down. Don't worry. In a flash, Wang Zhong climbed up the wall and walked away. Zhao Diyong's house was a courtyard house. There were 10 or so workers. It seemed that this guy had earned quite a bit. However, there was no one in his house right now. He probably went to the shop to work. Thinking about Zhao Diyong's shop, Wang Zhong couldn't help but sigh. Back in the day, he had also opened many shops. In order to find out the situation in Zhao Diyong's house, Wang Zhong prepared to do a thorough search. However, at this moment, a woman walked out from one of the bedrooms. Behind her was a cat. There's a cat. Wang Zhong immediately became alert. To him, cats were much more dangerous than snakes. Therefore, he had to be careful. Fortunately, this cat was obviously a spoiled cat. It was fat and didn't seem to be very agile. Wang Zhong's heart was set. Xiaomei, where did master go? The woman asked the servant girl behind her. He said he went to the shop this morning. Didn't he go yesterday? The woman frowned. Suddenly she thought of something. This guy, could it be that he went to the orphanage again? Then, she snorted coldly and walked out. Wang Zhong took this opportunity to climb down the wall and walk towards the woman's bedroom. However, the door was already closed. Wang Zhong pushed hard. The door wasn't locked and was pushed open. The decorations in the room were not bad. After rummaging around, he found quite a bit of silver in the wooden box under the bed. Looking at the silver, Wang Zhong lamented that he couldn't take it all at once. If he wanted to take it all, he would have to make several trips. However, the purpose of this trip wasn't to steal. It was to find clues about Su Dechang's disappearance. In the following half a month, Wang Zhong stayed in Zhao Diyang's house. As expected, he overheard some secrets. One time, it was two servant girls whispering. It seemed that Zhao Diyang's wife knew something that could be used against him, and he was very afraid of her. The other time, it was when Zhao Diyang and his wife were sleeping. At that time, his wife threatened Zhao Diyang that if he went out to play with that little vixen again, she would tell everyone about him. At that time, Zhao Diyang would definitely be arrested and sent to the authorities. Zhao Diyang was terrified on the spot. He knelt on the floor and said that he would never do it again. In the end, in order to satisfy his wife, he fought for several hours. Wang Zhong originally thought that he wouldn't be able to hear any more secrets from Zhao Diyang. However, he didn't expect that Zhao Diyang would reveal one thing today. Zhou Chui went to report it to the authorities. It turned out that after beating Zhou Chui and Su Xiaolan that day, Zhou Chui had been recuperating at home. When she finally recovered, she went to report it to the authorities. She reported two things in total. The first was to investigate Su Dechang's disappearance. She suspected that Su Dechang was killed by Zhao Diyang. The second was to report that Zhao Diyang beat up her family of 3. Zhao Diyang wasn't afraid of the beating. After all, as long as he didn't beat anyone to death, the most he would have to pay was some money. However, the Su Dechang incident was troublesome. Wife, do you think the authorities will find out that I killed Su Dechang? Zhao Diyang couldn't help but ask in the middle of the night. You pighead, be careful that the walls have ears. The woman pinched Zhao Diyang. Zhao Diyang said with a bitter expression, I know, I'm just scared. Back then, Su Dechang and I agreed to go out to buy goods. In a moment of folly I sigh. Why are you saying so much? If it was me, I would have done the same. I'd be an idiot if I didn't take the money. Ah, stop yelling. You want to earn big money with your guts? Let me tell you, this is all your fault. Why did you go out to look for that vixen? I won't look for her anymore. I won't look for her anymore. I'm telling you, tomorrow morning, I'll go look for my third brother. When the time comes, I'll ask his brothers to get rid of that family. Ah! Zhao Diyang was shocked when he heard this. What are you yelling for? Listen to me. In the dark, Wang Zhong's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Good Lord, luckily I'm hiding here. Otherwise, Su Xiaolan's family would really be in trouble. The couple gradually fell asleep. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Zhong climbed onto the bed. First, he bit Zhao Diyang's neck. His sharp and hard teeth pierced through Zhao Diyang's neck. Then he bit the woman's neck. The couple's eyes widened before they died. They struggled for a while before they stopped moving. Then Wang Zhong started to move the money. He moved the money out one by one from under the bed. When he came out, he naturally met the cat. Whoa! When the cat saw Wang Zhong, all the fur on its body stood on end. Wang Zhong could tell that the cat was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. He walked towards the cat and quickly jumped onto its head. Meow! The cat was scared out of its wits. It shook Wang Zhong off its back and ran into the distance. Chapter 526. Early the next morning, Zhao Diyang's maids were bewildered. Zhao Diyang and his wife, who were used to waking up early, didn't wake up today. Thus, 2 maids went into the room to take a look. When they saw the stiff corpse on the bed, the 2 maids ran out crying. Zhao Diyang and his wife were dead. At this moment, Wang Zhong had already returned to Su Xiaolan's home. As soon as he entered, he heard Zhou Chui crying. Son, hang in there, I'll call the doctor right away. The doctor is here. Su Xiaolan and a man walked in. This man was quite skilled. After performing acupuncture on Su Xiaochang a few times, Su Xiaochang gradually regained consciousness. However, because his injuries were too severe, he still had a slight fever. After giving the doctor some silver, Su Xiaochang slowly woke up. Wang Zhong sighed at the door. Su Xiaochang was obviously not going to make it. His internal organs were injured, and he probably didn't have much time left. Su Xiaolan went out to cook breakfast. When she saw Wang Zhong, she was pleasantly surprised. Su-san. Shh. Wang Zhong jumped onto the stove and told her what happened last night. Su Xiaolan immediately burst into tears. My big brother really was murdered. Don't think too much about it. People can't come back to life. It's best if you don't tell your mother about this, in case she's too sad. I know. Su Xiaolan wiped away her tears. Then, under Wang Zhong's lead, Su Xiaolan took a small cloth bag to the backyard of Zhao Diyang's home. Here, he buried the silver he hid last night. Because it was inconvenient for him to carry it around, he buried all the silver here. Dig out the silver. I'll keep a lookout for you. After a while, Su Xiaolan carried the cloth bag and hurriedly left. Su Xiaolan was very excited because she had never seen so much silver in her life. Little mouse, we have so much silver now. How are we going to use it in the future? Su Xiaolan couldn't help but imagine the happy days ahead. Since she was young, she had suffered a lot, so she had always hoped that her family could live a good life. Thinking of this, Su Xiaolan couldn't help but feel depressed because she thought of her family. In order to eat, her father was stoned to death. In order to earn big money, her brother was killed outside. Now even his younger brother couldn't do it. Wang Zhong replied, It's not a lot of money. I can't always go out and steal for you, because sooner or later someone will find out. It'll be troublesome if they find out that it's you. Even though Su Xiaolan was only in her teens, she knew the pros and cons of such a situation. She nodded in agreement. You're right. Then, Wang Zhong began to analyze what to do next. In his eyes, Su Xiaolan was a girl. If she wanted to make a lot of money, she couldn't rely on farm work even if she had to die. In this day and age, it was impossible for women to take the imperial examinations. With Su Xiaolan's looks, business would definitely be good if they went to the orphanage. However, Su Xiaolan probably wouldn't agree, so there was only one way. After some thought, Wang Zhong decided to let Su Xiaolan start her own business. Business? Su Xiaolan. But I don't know how to. Don't worry, I'll teach you. But you're still too young. Wait until you're a little older. You should save up money and learn. Oh. When they returned home, Su Xiaolan didn't tell Zhou Chui about the money. This was a serious matter. Su Xiaolan was worried that her mother would think too much, so she chose to hide it. In the end, Su Xiaochang didn't make it through this winter. One day, when Su Xiaolan and her mother went out to farm, Wang Zhong noticed that Su Xiaochang's aura was getting weaker and weaker. Looks like he won't live for long. Wang Zhong sighed softly. He had watched this child grow up. His personality was actually a little weak, and he stuttered in everything he did. However, he was definitely attentive to his family. Little mouse. Su Xiaochang saw Wang Zhong come over and sighed softly. Thank you for taking care of our family. Su Xiaochang was already so old, so he naturally knew what happened when he was young. He knew that Wang Zhong gave money to Su Xiaolan. And he also knew that it was Wang Zhong who helped them kill Huang Ergu, who was harassing their mother. Sai Xiaochang, you need to rest more, Wang Zhong said. You can actually talk. Su Xiaochang's eyes widened, and his arms slowly fell to his sides. You can actually talk. Just like that, Su Xiaochang passed away. Wang Zhong was quite speechless, because before Su Xiaochang died, he seemed to have been scared away by him. However, it was also good that Su Xiaochang died. Firstly, he had been suffering here all this time. Secondly, in order to treat Su Xiaochang's illness, Su Xiaolan had actually spent a lot of money on him. Therefore, Su Xiaochang's death, whether it was for himself or for his family, was perhaps a type of relief. When Zhou Chui returned and saw the stiff corpse on the bed, she immediately collapsed to the ground. My dear, little brother. The mother and daughter hugged each other and cried bitterly. Wang Zhong sighed. Only the two of them were left in a family. How tragic. Although they were dead, the living still had to live. After burying Su Xiaochang, this winter ushered in a snowstorm that hadn't happened in many years. The heavy snow crushed many people's houses. Wang Zhong saw this and became anxious. Xiaolan, the snow this time is too heavy. If this continues, your house will probably collapse too. We have to sweep the snow off the roof. Under Wang Zhong's reminder, the next day, Su Xiaolan and her mother began to sweep the snow. The two of them found a long bamboo pole and swept the snow off the roof. Then, they used a bamboo broom to sweep away all the snow around the house. The small house was finally able to survive the heavy snow. Unfortunately, the other people in the village weren't so lucky. Many people were crushed to death on the spot. Those who didn't die stayed where they were, crying and howling. At the beginning of spring the next year, all things came back to life. Logically speaking, this was the season when people started to plant seeds. With the amount of snow last year, there would definitely be a good harvest this year. Unfortunately, the world was unpredictable. Because the snow this time was too heavy, it caused a disaster even more serious than the drought in previous years. Many people lost their homes. In order to eat, in order to earn money, bandits appeared in many places. These people burned, killed, robbed, and committed all kinds of crimes. Because the towns were protected by the garrison, they couldn't do anything. However, some villages were in trouble. Many villages were robbed, and it was even said that many women were taken away by the bandits. Their fates were self-evident. Oh no, the bandits are attacking. On this day, Zhou Chui and Su Xiaolan were farming. Seeing the dust at the village entrance from afar, Zhou Chui immediately knew that the bandits were here. These days, the commotion caused by the bandits was already known to everyone. They didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly ran away. Xiaolan ran into the forest. Zhou Chui hurriedly ran away. Su Xiaolan nodded. She wasn't worried, because she had already hidden the silver at the spring. Steal the silver, steal the women, steal the food. Whoever dares to block the way, kill. Several strong men on horses charged in with machetes raised. At this time, Zhou Chui and Su Xiaolan had already hidden in the forest and watched as the bandits ransacked their house. Su Xiaolan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, she had been warned by Little Mouse and hid the silver. Wang Zhong was currently in the house. What surprised him was that he actually recognized one of the strong masked men who came this time. It was the hooligan of the village, Fat Cow. This fellow actually became a bandit. Wang Zhong furrowed his eyebrows. Hey, didn't you say there was a beautiful woman here? Where is she? Fat Cow humphed. Of course she's hiding. But don't worry. Look, there are still pots and pans here. They're definitely hiding somewhere not far away. We'll come in the middle of the night. Ha ha ha, Fat Cow. We'll do as you say. The two of them rode away. The sky gradually darkened. Su Xiaolan and Zhou Chui walked over. Mother, you rest for a while. I'll go cook. Su Xiaolan helped Zhou Chui into the house. After they came out, Wang Zhong climbed onto her shoulder in no time. Little Mouse, where did you go today? I didn't see you the whole day. After seeing Wang Zhong, Su Xiaolan's mood improved a lot. Wang Zhong said, hurry up and take your things and run. Then, Wang Zhong told her about Fat Cow wanting to deal with her. What? Hearing Wang Zhong's words, Su Xiaolan was furious. This Fat Cow actually led bandits to kill people from the same village. What a jerk. Although Su Xiaolan said this, she knew that this was really not a place to stay for long. She immediately started to pack her things. Xiaolan, why are you packing your things? Zhou Chui walked out and asked. Mother, this is bad. Fat Cow is a bandit. I'm afraid he'll come to make trouble for us in the middle of the night. Ah. Zhou Chui was puzzled. How do you know? My eyes are sharp. Today, I recognized a bandit who looks very similar to Fat Cow. But, Mother, listen to me. Su Xiaolan didn't explain further. After packing some things, she and Zhou Chui each carried a bag and walked out. They hid in the forest. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, they saw two people holding two torches and walking towards them. They really came. Su Xiaolan frowned. In the next moment, she and Zhou Chui were both stunned. Perhaps Fat Cow was angry. He directly set fire to Su Xiaolan's roof, and the small house was set ablaze. "House, our house!" Zhou Chui was so anxious that she started crying. Su Xiaolan also cried. This was the house that they relied on to survive, and it was burned down just like that. Su Xiaolan could only hold on to Zhou Chui tightly, not letting her act rashly. Wang Zhong sighed in his heart. He finally understood why the original owner of this body was so resentful. This little master didn't just have a miserable life, it was inhumane. If he hadn't worked himself to death to steal some money, Su Xiaolan's family would probably be even more miserable. The house is gone. What are we going to do in the future? Zhou Chui leaned on Su Xiaolan, tears of pain flowing down her face. Mother, let's go to the city. It's safe there. But what about the money? We don't have much money left. I've saved some. I'll think of something when the time comes. Su Xiaolan didn't say it explicitly. Actually, she still had some money on her. Chapter 527. The next day before dawn, Su Xiaolan and Zhou Chui walked toward the county town. Along the way, they encountered many refugees, all of whom were ordinary people who had been robbed these days. This is too pitiful. Wang Zhong lay in Su Xiaolan's collar and couldn't help but mutter. Yeah. Su Xiaolan also sighed helplessly. Xiaolan, give him something to eat. At this moment, a woman walked over. This woman was also from the same village. Su Xiaolan sighed and gave her a large biscuit. Thank you, Xiaolan. You're really a good person. The bandits are here. The bandits are here. Right at this moment, screams of agony came from the distance. Dozens of bandits on horses quickly rushed over. At this moment, the refugees panicked and fled in all directions. Su Xiaolan and Zhou Chui were quite lucky and escaped into the forest. After the bandits left, they escaped and rushed to the county town with some refugees. Right now, the people in the county town were also in a state of panic. This was because they heard that the bandits outside were becoming more and more serious. At first, they were just bandits, but now they had become an army. Now there were rumors outside that these bandits were preparing to attack this place. Fortunately, the imperial court sent people over. After 5 days of bandit suppression, the bandits in the nearby mountains were either dead or injured. Basically, they didn't dare to show their faces. This was a headache for the imperial court. These bandits had learned their lesson. Now they basically changed locations after every shot. By the time the imperial court soldiers arrived, these bandits would have long since disappeared. The bandit suppression operation continued to drag on, and the refugees in the county town couldn't leave. This gave the higher-ups a headache, and they didn't know what to do. Thus, the city lord's castle sent out a notice to find knowledgeable people who had a way to solve this bandit problem. Unfortunately, half a month had passed, and no one had a solution. During these days, Wang Zhong, Su Xiaolan, and Zhou Chui had been squeezed together in an inn. This inn's conditions were average, but the price was cheap. Whenever it was late at night, Wang Zhong would hide under his bed and silently train. Without spirit water, my strength is improving so slowly. Wang Zhong could feel that he was about to be promoted. With a thought, he shouted out in a low voice, "Transformation." In the blink of an eye, a man in his early 20s appeared under the bed. Wang Zhong touched his face and smiled. Finally, he had transformed. After today, he would be able to move like a human. However, Wang Zhong found that he could not maintain this state for long. Around the second half of the night, he returned to his original form because the spiritual power in his body disappeared. Looks like I can't use it often. Wang Zhong felt helpless. He really wanted to continue cultivating beside the spring. As long as he advanced, everything would be simple. Unfortunately, he was here now. These damn bandits. Wang Zhong thought about it for a moment. He had an idea. That was the only way. The next day, when Zhou Chui went out to beg for food, Wang Zhong transformed into his human form in front of Su Xiaolan. "Little mouse, you really are a little mouse." Su Xiaolan covered her mouth in shock. Suddenly she smiled. "You turned into a human? That's great, that's great." Su Xiaolan wanted to jump over and hug him, but she seemed to be worried about something, so she did not. Wang Zhong said calmly, "I haven't been in this form for long. As he spoke, he picked up the bronze mirror beside him and looked at himself in the mirror. He looked very young in the mirror. What surprised him was that this was his appearance in reality. Looks like this is a random transformation, Wang Zhong muttered to himself. He said to Su Xiaolan, "Now I'll tell you the next step of the plan." Then, Su Xiaolan went to the city lord's residence under Wang Zhong's instructions. Commoner Su Xiaolan wishes to meet the city lord. Commoner Su San wishes to meet the city lord. The two of them stood at the door and spoke to the guard. "Shoo shoo shoo. Is the city lord someone you brats can meet?" The guard chased them away impatiently. Wang Zhong stepped forward and said solemnly, "I have a way to solve this bandit problem." "You have a way?" The guard's eyes narrowed. Wang Zhong nodded. "Of course. Ha ha ha." The two guards laughed. Wang Zhong sighed. He knew that they wouldn't believe him since they were so young. He didn't expect that he could only use the old method and throw out 2 pieces of silver. Seeing the silver, the two guards nodded and said, "All right, I'll go and inform the city lord. However, I can't guarantee that I'll be able to meet him." Then who knows if you've already informed the city lord?" Su Xiaolan said unhappily. "What? You don't believe me?" The guard snorted. Now that he had taken the silver, he had the upper hand. Su Xiaolan pouted and didn't dare to say anything. Wang Zhong wasn't angry. He smiled and said, "As long as you inform the city lord and I can meet him, I'll give you another 2 pieces of silver." "Really?" Hearing this, the two guards instantly laughed. "Just you wait." With silver, their words were much more pleasant. Soon, the guard came out and invited the two of them in. Su Xiaolan was very scared. She lowered her head and followed behind Wang Zhong. Seeing this, Wang Zhong sighed in his heart. This was also the reason why he had to wait until he could transform. Su Xiaolan was really too young. Even if he told her the method and asked her to come over, it probably wouldn't be effective. Thus, he waited until today to come. Wang Zhong had seen a lot of the world, so he was very experienced in his actions as he walked in. He followed the guard to the courtyard. As soon as he arrived, he saw that there were already many people waiting in the courtyard. These people were all the city lord's advisors. In ancient times, some large families would raise advisors. These advisors were either skilled in martial arts, skilled in strategy, or had some special skills, such as zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, and so on. In short, as long as you had a special skill, if you were recognized, some important figures would take a fancy to you and recruit you. There were more than 10 advisors present, all older than Wang Zhong. Sitting at the head of the table was an old man in his 50s. Although he was quite old, he was still very energetic. He said to the crowd, "Everyone, we haven't come up with a solution to completely solve the problem of bandits. Why don't we listen to what these 2 children have to say?" The old man who spoke was the city lord Lu Bai. This Lu Bai had been in power for many years. Not only was he the city lord, but his Lu family was also a well-known large family in the area. Hearing Lu Bai's words, a long-bearded advisor stroked his beard and sneered. "What ideas can 2 little brats have? I'm afraid they don't even know what bandits are." Wang Zhong smiled at him and said, "One look and I can tell that this big brother is a dragon among men." This commoner Wang Zhong only came today to discuss with big brothers if there's anything wrong. At this point, Wang Zhong smiled at the long-bearded advisor and said, "Big brother, please give me a few pointers." Wang Zhong's words were equivalent to giving the other party face. As the saying goes, don't slap a smiling face. Since Wang Zhong was so polite, the long-bearded advisor couldn't say anything else. He nodded and said, "Then tell us." Wang Zhong nodded slightly and began. Wang Zhong's suggestion was very simple. One word: report. The bandits this time were formed by villagers who couldn't survive. These people were originally farmers in the village, but because of this year's snow disaster, they lost their homes and were driven to desperation, so they couldn't become bandits. But in front of them, they discovered that bandits could really make a lot of money, and the soldiers couldn't do anything to them. Therefore, they simply walked this path to the end. Then, the big bandits ate the small bandits, and the small bandits ate the small shrimps. The bandits' power grew stronger and stronger. Although it was easy for the soldiers to deal with these bandits, the bandits used guerrilla warfare, which was very troublesome. And Wang Zhong's method was to report. These bandits were originally poor people. Most of them had family in the village. As long as they spread the news and gave 7 days for all the bandits to return home, they would let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, if everyone reported that their men weren't at home, then their families would be arrested. Perhaps some people would ask if these bandits would bring their families along to become bandits. The answer was no. It was very simple. Bandits didn't have a fixed residence. They might live on the mountain today and enter the city tomorrow as ordinary people. The day after, they would run to the official road to rob. With so many family members, it was impossible for them to bring their families along. Therefore, as long as there was a reward for reporting, many people would definitely report. When the time came, these bandits would definitely be worried about their families and abandon the darkness for the light. They would obediently stay at home and farm. This was the first method. After all, there were so many bandits. Some bandits had a fluke mentality, while others were alone and fearless. Therefore, after the first method was implemented, there would definitely be some bandits who would continue to be bandits. At this time, the second method was needed. That was spies. Find some people who didn't want to be bandits and promise them some benefits. Then they would go and find the location of the previous bandits. Once they found the location, they would return at night to report. At that time, the troops would split into 4 and surround the bandits one by one, leaving none alive. This was Wang Zhong's 2-step plan. When the long-bearded tactician heard Wang Zhong's plan, his expression changed from disdain to realization, and then to shock. His expression was incomparably fascinating. If even he was like this, needless to say, the others were all enlightened. Pa! City Lord Lu Bai slammed the table and asked Wang Zhong. Susan, how old are you? Reporting to the city lord, this commoner is 20 years old. Wang Zhong didn't know how old he was either, so he casually replied. Good. Heroes come from the youth. Your plan is very good. Tell me, what reward do you want? As he spoke, City Lord Lu Bai stared at Wang Zhong. Everyone else did the same. Although many people felt that Wang Zhong's plan was very good, most of them were jealous. They thought to themselves, how can a country bumpkin come up with such a good idea? Thinking about it, most people felt that it was due to luck. Humans were like that. In the eyes of selfish people, no matter how capable they were, they would always feel unhappy. Once they felt this way, they would even backstab you. Such people were called petty. Chapter 528. Wang Zhong had been around for so many years, so he was naturally aware of the jealousy in their eyes. Thus, he decided to keep a low profile. In this day and age, keeping a low profile was the way to go. Although he wasn't afraid, he still had Su Xiaolan, who was a burden. Thus he said, my sister and I are both ordinary citizens. I feel that it's everyone's responsibility to rid the world of evil, so I don't dare to ask for any rewards. It's just that, my home was burned down by bandits, and I don't have a permanent residence now. I just want to build a small house on the original site of my home. This was equivalent to telling the strategists, don't worry, after dealing with these bandits, I'll go back to my hometown and continue farming. I won't get in your way. Sure enough, after hearing this, some of the strategists heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Zhong didn't want to stay here, which meant that he didn't want to compete with them. As strategists, these strategists were actually quite competitive. If you didn't contribute anything, after a while, the city lord would feel that you were useless. Then, you would basically be done for. Lu Bai furrowed his brows in dissatisfaction. In his heart, he actually thought quite highly of Wang Zhong. He felt that this young man was already so smart at such a young age, and his future was probably limitless. However, he didn't expect him to be so unambitious. After dealing with the bandits, he only wanted to go back home and farm. A country bumpkin will always be a country bumpkin. Lu Bai complained in his heart, but he said, this reward isn't difficult. I'll send some craftsmen to build a house for you. Oh right, how about building it in the county town? Your little plot of land is too remote. Wouldn't there be no spring water in the county town? Wang Zhong didn't want to do that. Wang Zhong shook his head. We're used to it. All right. Lu Bai thought to himself, I've already said this. Since you're still not willing, then so be it. He nodded. Now, let's discuss our next plan. The strategists began to discuss. Wang Zhong knew that he didn't carry much weight, so he cleverly kept a low profile and didn't speak much. Everyone was discussing the details of the plan. If there was a need to remind them, Wang Zhong would remind them, but in the end, he would still say that it was the other party's idea that gave him the idea. This way, everyone would be able to save face. After discussing the plan, Lu Bai waved his hand and had his strategists make their preparations. Wang Zhong was about to leave when Lu Bai called out to him. Sir, is there anything else? Wang Zhong calculated the time. His spiritual energy was constantly being consumed, and he was about to turn into a mouse, so he had to leave quickly. Lu Bai smiled. You haven't even gotten your reward, and you're already in a hurry to leave. Aren't you afraid that I won't give it to you? Wang Zhong said solemnly. When I was outside, I heard that the city lord was a person of virtue and prestige. I don't think he is that kind of person. Haha, you sure know how to talk. This inadvertent flattery made Lu Bai feel very comfortable, and he couldn't help but have a good impression of Wang Zhong. Behind him, Su Xiaolan was also secretly surprised. Wasn't this little mouse a little too capable? Not only was he capable, he was also good at talking. To be able to make the city lord so happy with just a few words, he really didn't expect it. Young man, do you really only want the reward of building a house for your family? Lu Bai asked with a smile. Wang Zhong nodded. We're used to living freely in the countryside. Furthermore, this commoner doesn't have any skills, so I won't be able to make a living in the county. Hey, you don't have to worry about this. I think you're very suitable to be my strategist. Sir, I'm still young. It was a coincidence that I thought of this idea. Hehe, you're quite modest. Although Wang Zhong was very modest, the more modest he was, the more Lu Bai thought highly of him. Perhaps Wang Zhong didn't have any great ambitions, but based on his attitude, Lu Bai dared to say that if he really did have any ambitions, his future would be limitless. Sir, I'm not being modest. Furthermore, I'm really too young. If someone doesn't like me, I'm worried that I'll be at a disadvantage. Don't like you. Lu Bai was very experienced. Although Wang Zhong didn't say it explicitly, he understood in his heart when he thought of the attitudes of the other strategists towards Wang Zhong. He snorted coldly in his heart. These strategists have been in the residence for too long. It seems like they're treating this place as their own home. They actually want to form a clique. Sir, but speaking of which, I'm actually just living in the countryside. If you have any needs, this commoner will definitely help. That's good to hear. Lu Bai nodded in satisfaction and continued. However, you don't have to live in the residence. Before the bandits are dealt with, it's best that you stay in the inn that I've specially arranged for you. Wang Zhong thought for a moment. He didn't have anywhere to stay anyway, and the conditions of the inn were terrible. So he nodded in agreement. Thank you, City Lord. After that, Wang Zhong and Su Xiaolan bid farewell and went back to fetch their mother. As soon as they stepped out, Wang Zhong transformed into the appearance of a mouse. Huff, 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 I finally transformed into my true form. I'm so tired. Wang Zhong said. Su Xiaolan's heart ached. Then rest for a while. But what should I say to my mother? Also, what if City Lord Lu Bai asks about you? Wang Zhong had already thought about this. He replied, that's easy. Just say that I'm a good friend from your village. My parents are all dead, and you happened to meet me when you were begging outside, so we came together. Because there wasn't much work to do in the county town, Su Xiaolan and Zhou Chui basically begged for food. Actually, Su Xiaolan had some money on her, but this child was used to being thrifty. She felt that she could eat her fill by begging, so why should she spend her own money? Wang Zhong didn't have a big appetite anyway, so he just let her be. After hearing Wang Zhong's idea, Su Xiaolan felt that it was a good idea. However, she still asked, then what if City Lord Lu Bai asks about you? Just say that I went out to do something. Okay. The two of them returned to the inn, and Su Xiaolan told her mother about Wang Zhong's words. Zhou Chui was puzzled. The city lord wants us to stay at his place. Yes, it's an inn. It's better than here. But this Su San you're talking about, who is he? I don't think I've heard of him in the village. He's from the neighboring village. We used to play together with a few friends. Oh, since her daughter said so, Zhou Chui didn't doubt her. She was very gratified. It seemed that this Su San was very capable. She didn't know how old he was, but her daughter was getting older and older. Previously, a few single young men in the village would come over to get close to him. Unfortunately, those young men weren't very capable. They were either too poor or didn't have much ability. Although the Su family wasn't very good, her daughter was very capable. If all the girls in the village were to compare who was more capable, it could be said that her daughter Su Xiaolan would stand at the entrance of the village and say, "Who else? Who else?" This was the loneliness of being at the top. Ordinary people couldn't understand. Only experts could understand this loneliness of who else. Thinking of this, Su Xiaolan asked while packing up, "Xiaolan, how old is that Su San?" 20 years old. Why, mother? 20 not bad. He's only a few years older than you. Zhou Chui was very gratified. This Su San was appreciated by the city lord. So why did he invite Xiaolan to stay with him? He probably had a good impression of her daughter. However, there were some things she had to remind her daughter. Although the other party was capable, she also had to know his personality. If his personality was irritable and temperamental, it wouldn't work no matter how good his conditions were. Thus, Zhou Chui asked very nosily, "Good daughter, that Su San's family isn't going to stay. So why are we staying there? Alright, also what does he do? Have you seen his family? It's not appropriate for us to stay there like this, right?" When Wang Zhong, who was hiding in Su Xiaolan's arms, heard this, he was instantly speechless. It seemed that Zhou Chui was starting to make arrangements for Su Xiaolan's marriage. Su Xiaolan didn't think so much and replied, "Mother, that Su San is very pitiful. His parents are both dead, and now he's the only one left. The reason why we're staying there is because he doesn't want to stay." He doesn't want to stay? Why? Zhou Chui was very puzzled. Because he still has things to do outside. He's usually very busy. Busy? Even if he's busy, he won't not come back to stay, right? Mother, I don't know about this either. In short, he asked me to stay there. Maybe he already has a place to stay. Is that so? Zhou Chui really wanted to ask more, but her daughter clearly didn't want to continue this topic. She could only think about it later. City Lord Liu Bai arranged for them to stay at the inn long and beside the city lord's residence. This inn was the property of the Liu family, and those who stayed there were basically high-ranking officials and distinguished guests. Thus, when Su Xiaolan and her mother moved in, they attracted a lot of attention. The main reason was that Su Xiaolan and Zhou Chui's clothes were too shabby. They wore coarse linen clothes, the typical attire of poor farmers in the countryside. On the other hand, those who stayed here were all dressed in luxurious clothes. Thus, Su Xiaolan and her mother naturally attracted a lot of attention. "Go away, beggars can't come in here." The waiter came out to chase them away. Su Xiaolan was shy and was so angry that she couldn't speak. After all, Zhou Chui was old and wasn't afraid of these people at all. She put her hands on her hips and said, "Who are you talking about? Who's a beggar?" In reality, Zhou Chui and Su Xiaolan both needed to eat these few days. However, since they moved in, they naturally couldn't be looked down upon. Zhou Chui's thoughts were very clear. Whether her daughter could marry well depended on whether others thought highly of her or not. If she was a yes man, who would think highly of her? Seeing that this woman was quite unreasonable, the waiter frowned and said, "What, you want to stay here? Do you know how expensive it is to stay here for a night?" Zhou Chui said arrogantly, "We can stay here. What's wrong?" Right at this moment, a woman in green walked down the stairs and walked over. "Miss Liu." The waiter walked over fearfully. "These two people want to stay here. I don't see their identities, so I'm asking." Su Xiaolan was stunned by this Miss Liu and was momentarily speechless. Fortunately, Zhou Chui took out the guest list that the city lord had given to Su Xiaolan and said, "Miss Liu, the city lord allowed us to stay here. Chapter 529. Miss Lu's real name was Lu Shang, and she was Lu Bai's daughter. Normally, she was in charge of managing a portion of the Lu family's business. For the sake of convenience, she basically always lived here. Glancing at the lodging register, Lu Shang nodded and said, The servant came to report earlier. However, where is that Mr. Su San? According to the servant's report, this Su San was extremely intelligent. Many strategists couldn't think of a plan, but Su San immediately thought of one. Moreover, he even rendered many strategists speechless. In the end, even the city lord said that this young man was very good, very outstanding, very good. One had to know that her father had many strategists under him, but there really weren't many who could catch his eye. Thus, Lu Shang was very interested in this Su San. My brother has something to do, Su Xiaolan replied. Got it. Lu Shang said to the waiter. These two are my father's esteemed guests. Don't be rude in the future, understand? Sorry. The waiter hurriedly apologized to Zhou Chui. Su Xiaolan and Zhou Chui naturally wouldn't lower themselves to the waiter's level, so they didn't say anything. After completing the procedures, the two of them checked in. As expected of a large inn, not only was the environment good, even the smell in the room constantly wafted with a faint fragrance. After checking in, Wang Zhong returned to the Spirit Spring that night and began to cultivate in preparation for a breakthrough. During the day, he had already felt that he was about to break through. Now the feeling was even stronger. While he was cultivating, the city lord's castle and the imperial court sent reinforcements to speed up the implementation of Wang Zhong's plan. The first was to put up a notice. The notice was just as Wang Zhong had said. In 7 days, reports of bandits from the same village would begin. If they didn't turn themselves in within 7 days, their families would all be arrested. Those who turned themselves in within these 7 days, the imperial court guaranteed that they would be given preferential treatment and wouldn't be jailed. This was called a joint report. Those who wanted to get lucky had to be prepared for their families to be arrested as well. Due to the lack of information in ancient times, it took 3 full days for the contents of the notice to be spread all over the place. This was also in line with Wang Zhong's original calculations. With only 3 or 4 days left, even if some bandits wanted to move their families, it would probably be too late. As soon as this vicious plan was announced, some of the criminals who had wives and children at home began to feel conflicted. He would be fine if he continued to be a bandit, but what about his family? The situation in the countryside was complicated. Everyone knew each other. If they knew that your husband was not at home, someone would probably report it anonymously. At that time, no matter what you did, your wife and children would be arrested and tortured. What was even more worrying was that the notice said that the imperial court had sent another army over. When the time came, they would begin to encircle and annihilate all the bandits. Would they be able to continue? With so many people around, there were bound to be people who began to back out. Therefore, over the next few days, people began to return to their hometowns one after another. These people were all brought to the government. What was surprising was that these people were all sent back, but they all paid a lot of money. However, this was still not bad. Some of the less ambitious people secretly rejoiced that they were able to escape this calamity. Many people saw that the government really didn't touch these people, so more and more people surrendered. For this reason, the city lord's mansion extended the time. After 10 days, seeing that there were no more people who surrendered, everyone in the city lord's mansion knew that the remaining bandits were stubbornly resisting. Therefore, the next step was the second plan, the spy plan. These days, the city lord's mansion had already roped in many people. These people didn't go home. Instead, they went to some bandit lairs. After they settled down and confirmed the location of some bandit lairs, the bandit suppression operation would begin. The bandit suppression operation had already been going on for 10 days. Reports of success came infrequently. Because the bandit lairs had been betrayed by many spies, the imperial court was able to carry out the operation smoothly. The bandits were often still sleeping soundly in the middle of the night when they were already surrounded. On this day, after Wang Zhong transformed into his human form, He walked into the city from the spirit spring. In the future, his human form would be the key. Because it was much more convenient to do things in this form, he needed to interact more with the people here. At the very least, he had to let them get familiar with him. When he arrived at the inn, the waiter recognized Wang Zhong. These days, Wang Zhong would go out every day. He knew that Wang Zhong was Su-san. "Young Master Su, what would you like to eat?" the waiter asked with a smile. As he spoke, Su Xiaolan also came back from outside. Wang Zhong reached out to greet her and said, "Xiaolan, you can order." The dishes here were very expensive, but they were all paid for by the city lord. As long as it wasn't too outrageous, it was fine. Su Xiaolan ordered the dishes, then asked quietly, "You went back to the spirit spring again?" "And I had no choice. I needed to go there to absorb energy." "Then why didn't you transform into a mouse and come here? What if you suddenly don't have enough energy?" Su Xiaolan reminded him worriedly. Wang Zhong chuckled softly and said, "Think about it. What if a mouse suddenly rushed out on the street, and everyone started yelling at it?" "That's true." Su Xiaolan smiled in agreement. While the two of them were chatting, some people at the largest table in the main hall were also chatting. These people were all young masters. They would gather here almost every few days. It wasn't that they liked to eat here, but they all knew that they could meet young Miss Lu Shang here. As the daughter of the city lord, Lu Shang not only came from an illustrious family, but she was also gentle and charming. What man didn't like her? If they could woo Lu Shang, who knew how many men would wake up laughing behind their backs? These young masters all had the same goal. Although Lu Shang wasn't here, they all started chatting. One moment they talked about the international situation. The next moment they talked about poems and songs. In any case, they talked about whatever they wanted to show off. This was because they all knew that Lu Shang would come back to eat at this time almost every day. These young masters were afraid that others wouldn't know that they were cultured, so they chatted very loudly. However, the people around them weren't unhappy. Instead, they were all impressed by their culture. This made Wang Zhong very speechless. These people would be beaten to death in the modern world, right? Just as they were chatting, the main character, Lu Shang, returned from outside. Behind her was a servant girl. She walked to the side of the table. The waiter didn't even ask, directly bringing 3 dishes and a soup. This was Lu Shang's old rule. She would do this every day when she ate. Although she was born in a noble family, she wasn't very pretentious. Everything about her was quite simple. "Young Miss Lu, we're talking about this couplet. Help me take a look." "Young Miss Lu, I just composed a poem about you. Can you help me appraise it?" "Young Miss Lu, this is my painting." Lu Shang was also quite interested in poems and songs. Unfortunately, she lost interest after a few glances. "This is called a couplet? It doesn't even have a basic rhyme. This is called a poem? Isn't it too difficult to read? Are you painting me or a ghost?" Although Lu Shang liked poems and songs and liked cultured people, it didn't mean that she had a good temper. The quality of these young masters couldn't even compare to the few from yesterday. They didn't even have any ink in their stomachs, and they still wanted to court her? Right now, Lu Shang only wanted to laugh at them. At this moment, Lu Shang glanced out of the corner of her eye and noticed Su Xiaolan and Wang Zhong. Lu Shang had seen Wang Zhong from afar before and knew that he was Su-san. She had mentioned Wang Zhong to her father several times, saying that this young man was quite a good person. Under his methods, they had already dealt with several bandits on the mountain. Once this was over, the imperial court would definitely reward him greatly. At that time, their Lu family's status here would definitely rise again. And all of this was thanks to this Su-san. Thinking back to more than a month ago, because they couldn't deal with these bandits, the imperial court had already issued several ultimatums. If they still couldn't deal with them, her father would be stripped of his position. Not only that, but as a warning to others as the city lord, Lu Bai would definitely be used as a punching bag by the imperial court. At that time, her father's hair had really turned white from worry. And now, the bandits were finally over. She actually admired Wang Zhong a lot in her heart, but after hearing her father praise him several times, she faintly felt a bit unconvinced. Seeing Wang Zhong here, She rolled her eyes and took the initiative to walk over. Young Miss Su, young Master Su. Young Miss Lu. Su Xiaolan stood up embarrassedly. Wang Zhong didn't panic and nodded indifferently. Young Miss Lu, is there something you need? Nothing much. I just remembered that young Master Su helped my father so much this time, so I came over to propose a toast. Hearing this, envy welled up in the young master's faces. To be able to have young Miss Lu propose a toast, this was a blessing cultivated from his previous life. However, Wang Zhong couldn't drink. He was a demon, and a small demon at that. His foundation was unstable to begin with, and after drinking, he couldn't control his demonic arts very well, and would easily appear. This was like the legend of the white snake, little white and little green, appearing only because he drank. Sorry, I can't drink. Wang Zhong spoke very politely, and felt this was normal. However, in the eyes of outsiders, heavens, he actually rejected young Miss Lu's toast. Some of the bootlickers' eyes turned red, and they wanted nothing more than to rush over and drink that cup of wine themselves. Lu Shang was also taken aback, secretly shocked. This man actually rejected her. Immediately afterward, she laughed lightly in her heart. This brat was probably stunned by her beauty, right? That's right. Her appearance was unparalleled in the world. Many young masters were stunned on the spot when they saw her. This brat was just a country bumpkin. He must have been stunned by her flirting. Sigh, being good-looking is so worrisome. I can't even have a good chat with others. Although that was what she thought, Lu Shang also wanted to save face, so she said gently, Young Master Su, you don't have to be shy. You just have to give me some face. Before Wang Zhong could speak, Su Xiaolan thought for a moment and took the wine cup. Young Miss Lu, my brother really can't drink. Let me drink on his behalf. Su Xiaolan knew Wang Zhong's background, and knew that he would reveal his true colors if he drank, so she took the initiative to volunteer. This was also Su Xiaolan's fault for not being sensible. She was proposing a toast to Wang Zhong, and if Wang Zhong really couldn't drink, he would tactfully decline. If she took the initiative to volunteer, wouldn't that be not giving young Miss Lu face? Sure enough, Lu Shang's expression darkened. Young Master Su, young Miss Lu sincerely proposed a toast. Are you not going to give her face? A bootlicker stepped forward. Lu Shang didn't say anything. In her eyes, although Wang Zhong helped them, in the end, he was just a country bumpkin. Chapter 530. Wang Zhong was quite speechless at this moment. He was having a meal with Su Xiaolan. How did he end up getting implicated? Wang Zhong actually didn't want to have any conflicts with others, before he had the absolute strength to trample others to death. Thus, after thinking about it, he still decided to keep a low profile. He cupped his hands toward the other table and said, I'm sorry, it's not that I don't want to give face to Miss Lu, but I really can't drink. Yes, my brother doesn't feel well after drinking. Su Xiaolan hurriedly spoke up for Wang Zhong. Lu Shang's eyes flashed. She had seen men who didn't drink, but she had never seen anyone who didn't drink after being toasted by her. However, since things had already come to this, she wasn't going to force it. Otherwise, it wouldn't look good for everyone. Her personality was actually the same as her father Lu Bai. They were both more reserved. However, she wasn't going to say anything. The bootlicker from before couldn't help but snort lightly. Two country bumpkins will always be country bumpkins. Come, let's drink. Su Xiaolan's face flushed red, and she felt very uncomfortable. Lu Shang smiled apologetically at Wang Zhong and said, I'm sorry, young Master Su. I also didn't want things to turn out this way. Wang Zhong said indifferently, he's just a mediocre person who calls himself a scholar, not worth mentioning. He could keep a low profile, but that didn't mean that he could still have a good temper when others pointed at him and scolded him. Thus, he had no intention of lowering his voice at all, and was immediately heard by the bootlicker from before. You're saying I'm a mediocre scholar? The bootlicker frowned and turned his head. Wang Zhong sipped his tea and said calmly, I'm just speaking the truth. Lu Shang raised her eyebrows. This guy was indeed quite capable. Just from his calm demeanor, he was obviously better than the bootlicker. She was instantly interested, and wanted to see what Wang Zhong would do next. Thus, she purposely didn't smooth things over. Ha ha ha, mediocre. Interesting. You say it as if you know how to compose poems. This person had just composed a poem about Lu Shang. The lines of the poem went like this. The beauty that topples the country frightens people, often makes us laugh. Suddenly the spring breeze is full of endless hate. The beauty just so happens to be Lu. The meaning of this poem was actually very simple. It naturally referred to beauty. It was said that there was a beautiful woman here that they often missed. Suddenly a spring breeze came. When they turned around, it was the person they missed. Lu sure was Lu Shang. This poem was equivalent to a confession. Just by looking at the first two sentences, it was still acceptable. However, the last two sentences were obviously pieced together, because he couldn't really understand them. The key was that this kind of thing that people couldn't understand would be sought after even more by those who couldn't understand. Everyone around him said that it was good, so he couldn't say that it was bad, right? However, those who could really understand it were still understandable. Wang Zhong said to the man, I really can compose poems. Okay, I want to hear it. This bootlicker didn't give up. The person he liked was watching from the side. He couldn't admit defeat. Wang Zhong stood up and said calmly, That's right. Last year, today, in this sect, the faces of people and peach blossoms reflected each other's red. I don't know where the human face has gone, but the peach blossoms are still smiling in the spring breeze. This poem was learned when he was in school. Wang Zhong had always remembered it. This poem described the beauty of a woman, but it wasn't a direct description. Instead, it was a metaphor between a woman and peach blossoms. It expressed the meaning of a woman's beauty that could topple countries. This poem was quite famous and had a deep meaning. It was extraordinarily beautiful. Otherwise, this poem wouldn't have been taken out in school. It was a sure bet to use this poem as a love letter. Of course, it couldn't be done now because, Lord, times have changed. However, no one here had heard of it before. Therefore, when Lu Shang heard it, she was stunned. What a beautiful poem! Lu Shang felt her heart beating faster. She stared at Wang Zhong without blinking and asked, Young Master Su, did you study in private school before? I know a little. Oh, this poem is quite beautiful. Thank you for writing it for me. I will write it down as a memento when I return. Lu Shang was a person who dared to love and hate. She would do this whenever she encountered a poem that she liked. At the same time, she was also hinting that she was interested in Wang Zhong. When she said that, Su Xiaolan's face darkened. As expected, all boys liked well-bred ladies like Lu Shang. Even if Su San was a little mouse, he was no exception. I'm sorry. This poem is for Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan was so good. He couldn't bear to let her suffer. As for this Lu Shang, although she was pretty, she was obviously using him as a tool just now. He wouldn't be nice to this kind of person, because there was no need to. Lu Shang was stunned. Because of her embarrassment, her face flushed red. This was the first time she had been defeated by a woman, and an ordinary peasant girl at that. However, she had good self-restraint. She squeezed out a smile to hide her embarrassment and said, I thought it was for me. Wang Zhong didn't want to talk to her, so he gave her a hee-hee expression. Unfortunately, Lu Shang didn't know what hee-hee meant. At this time, Wang Zhong had finished eating. He touched his mouth and thought for a moment. He pointed at a plate of red braised pork on the table and said, The good pork in the city is cheap as dung. The rich won't eat it, the poor won't cook it. Slow the fire, little water. When the fire is enough, it will taste good. Get a bowl every day, so full that my lord doesn't care. Wang Zhong started to recite a poem once again. This poem was something he had bought from his previous memories, and had spent a portion of his experience points to do so. The reason why he bought this poem was to let the people around him see what true culture was, so that these people wouldn't dare to show off in front of him again. Xiaolan, let's go. Oh, the two of them were just about to leave when Lu Shang blocked in front of Wang Zhong. Is something the matter, Miss Lu? Wang Zhong frowned. This woman didn't know what was good for her. She kept looking for trouble. No. Seeing Wang Zhong's burning gaze, Lu Shang's cheeks burned, and her heart suddenly beat even faster. Oh, if there's nothing else, we're going to rest first. It's like this. Tonight is the opening day of an inn opened by my Lu family in the east of the city. If the two of you are interested, you can come and take a look. Lu Shang took the invitation from the servant and handed it over. Wang Zhong was very arrogant and didn't take it. What a joke. This kind of arrogant woman shouldn't be given face. Otherwise, she would take advantage of it. On the contrary, the more domineering you were to her, the more shocked she would be. Su Xiaolan took the invitation and bowed. Thank you, Miss Lu. If Xiaolan and I are free, we'll come over. Ignoring Lu Shang, Wang Zhong waved his sleeves, not leaving a single cloud behind. This person is really good at writing. Looking at Wang Zhong's back, the servant couldn't help but sigh with emotion. The other people in the inn also started discussing, all of them extremely impressed with Wang Zhong. Instead, it was the table of bootlickers from before that had long left dejectedly, at who knew when. Right now, Lu Shang also couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This Su San really had some ability. Father's judgment was indeed not wrong at all. Most importantly, that Su San really had a temper. Since she was young, she, Lu Shang, had been favored by the heavens and received all kinds of doting. After she grew up, relying on her outstanding looks, illustrious family background, as well as her ability in both literature and martial arts, there were who knew how many bootlickers around her. Some people coveted her looks, some envied her family background, and some admired her ability. These people, without exception, launched an extremely fierce pursuit of her. Unfortunately, those young masters were all golden on the outside but rotten on the inside. After a series of interactions, she didn't take a fancy to any of them. But this Su San was different. Although his background was ordinary, he had a personality. Meeting such a beautiful and extraordinary woman like her, he was actually unmoved. TSK, how interesting. Most importantly, his literary talent was also so good. Father's words were indeed right. This lad was pretty good. Miss. In the room, the servant girl's shouts interrupted her thoughts. What's the matter? Lu Shang rubbed her head. She had been thinking about Wang Zhong's every frown and smile just now, and actually got distracted. How embarrassing. Miss, you got distracted just now. It can't be that you've been thinking about that third young master Su all along, right? The servant girl covered her mouth and laughed lightly. They grew up together, and were as close as sisters. They saw through what Lu Shang was thinking at a glance. Lu Shang said angrily, "What are you talking about?" "I was thinking about the bandits." Even if it was seen through, the prideful Lu Shang naturally wouldn't admit it. "Not talking to you anymore. I'm going to rest for a while. I still have to host the opening ceremony tonight." This inn of the Lu family was originally prepared to open long ago, but the bandits suddenly caused the opening to be delayed. Now that the bandits had more or less been dealt with, Lu Bai didn't intend to wait any longer, so he decided to open for business today. On this day, the Lu family invited many high officials and nobles. They were all well-known figures in the city. Of all these people gathered here, only the Lu family had the face and the power to rally so many people. In the evening, the entrance of this flying dragon inn was full of people who had come to celebrate. Considering that he was going to do business in the future, he would have to deal with some important figures anyway. It would be good to get to know some faces, so Wang Zhong and Su Xiaolan came over. "Little Mouse, is it very awkward for us to come over?" Su Xiaolan and Wang Zhong found a corner to sit down as soon as they came in. "We were invited here. What's there to be awkward about?" There were many high officials and nobles who came in. Many people gathered together and talked loudly about how once the bandits were dealt with, the lives of the people would start to improve. There would definitely be a great harvest next year, and everyone's business would definitely improve. Their words were full of optimism. However, Wang Zhong was frowning. This area had experienced years of drought, and who knew how many people had died? It had only recovered in the last few years. Unexpectedly, there was a snowstorm and bandits. The economy probably wouldn't improve so quickly. However, he wasn't the person in charge, so this wasn't his business. He came today to consider what kind of business to do in the future. How about opening a shipyard? Obviously, that wouldn't work. His mission in this life was to bring Su Xiaolan to live a good life. If he opened a shipyard, would Su Xiaolan be the lady boss or receive customers? Although, with Su Xiaolan's beauty, business would definitely be very good when the time came. This was definitely not suitable. After thinking for a long time, Wang Zhong felt that it was a good idea to invest in the rice industry in the early stages. Chapter 531. Due to the turmoil in the past 10 years, the agriculture in this area was very backward, and many families were still unable to fill their stomachs. With so many families unable to fill their stomachs, wouldn't you be courting death if you opened a restaurant? Because if no one had money, who would come to spend money? Therefore, investing in the rice industry, which was to sell rice and let everyone eat their fill, was the right thing to do. Su-san, is the food to your taste? Lu Bai and his daughter Lu Shang walked over. Beside him was a son. This was the eldest son, and he looked quite similar to Lu Shang. Wang Zhong guessed that they were fraternal twins. City Lord. Wang Zhong stood up and said politely, "The food is delicious. Eat more if it's delicious. Why don't you drink?" "Father, young Master Su doesn't drink. I asked him to drink this afternoon, but he didn't drink." Lu Shang's tone was joking, but the surrounding people were secretly shocked when they heard this. Lu Shang didn't even drink? Was this person a genius or an idiot? "I really don't drink," Wang Zhong replied. "Yes, drinking makes things worse. Actually, I don't like to drink much, but sometimes I can't help it." Lu Bai's words were echoed by the surrounding people. These people were actually just flattering Lu Bai. Lu Bai exchanged a few pleasantries with the crowd, then stood in the middle and asked, "Oh right, what do you think of my inn? Feel free to voice your opinions. The construction here is magnificent, the dishes are plentiful, and the wine is delicious. I really can't think of any opinions. Not bad, it's perfect. It's more than perfect, it's practically a paradise on earth." No one raised any opinions at all. In any case, they were all flattering. This was a good opportunity to get close to Lu Bai. These people are really... Wang Zhong shook his head speechlessly. It would be strange if this inn could be open, but these people were actually flattering him. He really didn't know if they were telling the truth or not. Lu Shang had actually been looking at Wang Zhong. She didn't know why, but she felt that she couldn't help but want to look at Wang Zhong as he sat there. Seeing that Wang Zhong and Su Xiaolan were completely oblivious to what was going on outside, Lu Shang made his way over. "Young Master Su, this is your favorite red braised pork." Of course, he couldn't just walk over. How embarrassing would that be? Therefore, Lu Chang brought a bowl of red braised pork. Wang Zhong's poem about red braised pork in the afternoon made her think that Wang Zhong liked red braised pork. "Thank you, Miss Lu. Young Master Su is really polite." "Oh right, what do you think of my inn? Was it designed by Miss Lu?" Wang Zhong asked. Lu Shang nodded. She was already prepared to receive Wang Zhong's shocked and appreciative gaze. Unfortunately, she was disappointed again. Wang Zhong shook his head and asked, "Miss Lu, do you want to hear the truth or a lie?" "Of course it's the truth," Lu Shang said. "In that case, even though the environment of this inn is great, and the dishes are decent, but it's not down to earth." Lu Shang was taken aback. Wang Zhong continued to explain. "There are many inns like this on this street, and the dishes are all about the same. I really don't understand which normal person would come here. Moreover, the prices here are a bit more expensive. Of course, there are definitely many VIPs, but how many of them would there be? Most importantly, various disasters in the past 10 years have caused the number of poor farmers to increase rapidly, causing many merchants to suffer. Asking them to come here and spend money, sigh." His words woke Lu Shang up from his daze, and he came to a sudden realization. She had taken everything for granted before and thought from her own perspective. She felt that with such a good environment and good dishes, business would definitely be good, right? However, she didn't consider whether people had money to spend, nor did she consider that the dishes weren't special. Just based on the environment, why would people come here? In the end, even though she knew the 4 arts, She was still too inexperienced to open an inn. Young Master Su, do you have any good suggestions? Lu Shang asked sincerely. As long as you can make business here good, I'm willing to give you some benefits. Wang Zhong said. 3 suggestions. First, the dishes must be special. If you don't have any, even if the prices are about the same as outside, business won't be too good. Second, the prices must be close to the people. After all, your father is the city lord. If it's too expensive, people will gossip. Lastly, the most important thing is to make the people rich. Rogue continued. Rich, huh? Lu Shang started to ponder. Wang Zhong's suggestions were actually very simple, but they were too difficult to implement. It was simply impossible. Thus, she shook her head helplessly and told him the difficulties of these suggestions. With a faint smile, Wang Zhong replied, I can help. If he could build a good relationship with the city lord's mansion, Wang Zhong would be more than happy. Wasn't this the reason why he came here? After that, Wang Zhong promised Lu Shang that he would take care of the dishes. I didn't expect young Master Su to not only be talented, but also know how to cook. I really didn't expect this. Lu Shang couldn't help but sigh. However, I wonder what new dishes young Master Su has prepared? What ingredients do you need me to provide? Fish. You only need to provide fish. Braised fish or fish soup? Lu Shang was a little curious. Fish wasn't precious to them. After the drought, there had been plenty of rain, so there were countless fish in the river. But the key was, what new cooking method could there be for fish? I'll tell you how to cook it later. Wang Zhong kept her in suspense and continued. Fish are cheap. We have many rivers nearby. As long as we ensure that we catch more fish, the price can be lowered. What's left is to make the people rich. Speaking of this, Lu Shang sighed. My father is the city lord himself. Naturally, he thinks for the people and wants them to be rich. Unfortunately, the wind and rain have not been good these years. Sigh. Actually, these can all be solved. You have a way. Of course. I'll go back and ask my father to come over. No need to rush. Let's deal with the bandits first. There's no need to rush. In ancient times, manpower and material resources weren't developed. Wang Zhong didn't want to do this and fall behind the bandits again. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. After returning, Su Xiaolan couldn't help but marvel at Wang Zhong's ability. She asked Wang Zhong how he knew so much. Wang Zhong smiled and said, You'll know after reading more. After saying this, he suddenly thought of something and said, The bandits have been dealt with these days. Let's go back after a while. These days, the city lord's castle had arranged for many craftsmen to build a house for Wang Zhong's family in the village. A few days ago, Wang Zhong went back and saw that half of the house had been built. Presumably, it wouldn't be long before they could go back. So soon? If we stay here any longer, we won't be able to plant anything. What are we going to eat next year? The next day, Wang Zhong went to Lu Shang's inn to explain the cooking method of grilled fish to her. Grilled fish was not only delicious, but it was also novel to the people here. Even the chef could save a lot of money by adding vegetables and so on, so the price could be lowered. Looking at the boiling grilled fish in front of her, Lu Shang ate a piece. It was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. It smelled delicious. It was simply a delicacy. It's delicious. It's good that it's delicious. Push this dish out and lower the price. The business will definitely be booming, Wang Zhong said. Lu Shang nodded repeatedly. Suddenly, she thought of something and glanced at Wang Zhong. Young Master Su, you're just going to give this skill to me like this? In Lu Shang's opinion, this kind of business opportunity was something that others couldn't wait to hide. Why would they give it to someone else for no reason? In fact, to Wang Zhong, although the grilled fish business would be popular, and he had done it in the past, the key was that according to his observation, the shops in this city were controlled by a few big families. There was no shop suitable for him to open at all. Therefore, he might as well give the grilled fish cooking method to Lu Shang and sell a favor. Don't forget me when the time comes, Wang Zhong said indifferently. I won't. Thank you. Lu Shang was actually a little touched. She couldn't help but think, Wang Zhong told her the grilled fish cooking method for no reason. Why? Could it be? Wang Zhong liked her. That must be it. Lu Shang was very melancholy. There were indeed many benefits to being beautiful. She had only moved her lips. And this Su San had already told her the grilled fish cooking method. What did this mean? This was love. Su San looked cold on the surface, but she was actually very flirtatious on the inside. If Wang Zhong knew what Lu Shang was thinking, he would definitely laugh until he couldn't straighten his back. In the following days, Lu Shang continued to purchase large fish and made the grilled fish casserole according to Wang Zhong's method. During this period, just as Wang Zhong had guessed, the inn's business wasn't very good. This made Lu Shang even more certain that she wanted to do this grilled fish business. In these days, in order to thank Wang Zhong, Lu Shang called Su Xiaolan and Zhou Chui over to help out at the inn. As for Wang Zhong, he refused. He couldn't stay in human form for too long, so he couldn't go work. Besides, he had more important things to do. After the bandits were dealt with, the people also started a vigorous farming campaign. Wang Zhong also started farming. As for Su Xiaolan, she worked as an accountant in Lu Shang Inn. This was because she had learned mathematics and various other knowledge from Wang Zhong since she was young, so she wasn't illiterate. Su Xiaolan, I didn't expect you to be so good at accounting, but I heard from your mother that you didn't learn it when you were young. How did you know? Su Xiaolan and her mother had been here for so long, and Lu Shang had asked Zhou Chui about some things from time to time, so she knew that Su Xiaolan had lived a hard life since she was young. Not to mention private school, she probably couldn't even afford to eat. Su San taught me. Su Xiaolan thought back to what Wang Zhong had taught her. At that time, she didn't understand, but now that she thought about it, learning was very important. Su San? I'm curious. I heard from your mother that Su San isn't your brother? Yeah, we're from the same village, Su Xiaolan replied. Is that so? After receiving a confirmation, Lu Shang was a bit embarrassed. She originally thought that Wang Zhong was good to Su Xiaolan because they were siblings, but they actually weren't siblings. So it was because Su San liked Su Xiaolan? For a moment, Lu Shang felt a bit uncomfortable. Chapter 532. Miss Lu, what's wrong? Seeing that Lu Shang's expression didn't seem too good, Su Xiaolan was a little puzzled. Nothing. I'm just a little envious. Su San seems to treat you very well. You're envious that he treats me well? Su Xiaolan was even more puzzled. She looked at Lu Shang and said, Miss Lu, don't tell me you have feelings for Su San. No, don't misunderstand. I'm just envious. No one has treated me so well since I was a child. Su Xiaolan didn't suspect her and said, Miss Lu, you have superior conditions. Even if someone treats you like this, you wouldn't have a chance. Let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you guys. Are you and Su San preparing to get married? Lu Shang probed. Get married? Su Xiaolan was a little dumbfounded. Wang Zhong was a mouse, how could this work? In her heart, she really liked Wang Zhong. But after all, she felt that it was impossible for a mouse and a human to get married. Thus, she immediately shook her head. Well, we're not suitable for each other. If you're not suitable, then Su San is helping you so much. He definitely likes you. Lu Shang stared straight at Su Xiaolan, wanting to see something from Su Xiaolan's eyes. After looking for a long time, she finally confirmed that Su Xiaolan really didn't seem to be interested in Wang Zhong. This made her happy, but she was soon speechless. There was nothing going on between them, so what was she happy about? Lu Shang, whose emotions were fluctuating, stayed up in a daze until night. When she was bathing, she was always absent-minded, and the scene of Wang Zhong reciting poetry would pop up in her mind from time to time. As she thought about it, more water filled the bathtub. Miss, what are you thinking about? When you came back today, I saw that you were always absent-minded. The maid was a little puzzled as she scrubbed Lu Shang's tender white skin. In the past, Miss Lu would always chat with her at this time, but she didn't talk much today, which was strange. Xiaodong, I don't know what's wrong with me recently. My mind is always in a mess. Miss, why don't you tell me about it? There's nothing much to say. I just feel that young Master Su and Su Xiaolan aren't siblings. Do you think they're a couple? The maid replied without hesitation. Of course. Ah, but Su Xiaolan says that's not the case. At first, Lu Shang felt a little relieved when he heard Su Xiaolan's words. However, now that he heard this, he felt a little uncomfortable. Young mistress, Su Xiaolan is still a little girl after all. How could she admit it? The maid reminded her helplessly. But how did you know they were a couple? They have a good relationship. They're not even family members. Who would treat them as well as they do? That's true. Lu Shang was dejected. Thinking about it carefully, he realized that he had indeed been too naive. Did Su Xiaolan think that there was nothing going on between them, just because she said so? This was simply too impossible. Miss, do you like Su-san? Being seen through by the maid, Lu Shang quickly retorted. What are you saying? How could I like him? He's just a country bumpkin. Hee, young mistress. I actually don't know how to tell you either. If you tell me, I might be able to come up with some ideas. Although this Su-san's background is ordinary, he's extremely intelligent. After interacting with him a few times, he seems to know everything. It's understandable that young mistress admires him. My suggestion is that before Su Xiaolan and him reach a conclusion, you should take the initiative. Is that really okay? Hearing the maid's words, Lu Shang thought of something. The maid said, Young mistress, I'm thinking for you. If you still don't take the initiative, they might really end up together. That's true. The only downside is that his background is too low. I'm just worried that master won't agree. And that's not a problem. With his ability, he'll definitely be able to make a name for himself. After chatting with the maid for a while, Lu Shang suddenly felt enlightened and felt that she should indeed take the initiative. At this moment, Wang Zhong was already tidying up his new house. The new house that the city lord manor had built for him had already been completed. Wang Zhong had already sowed the seeds in front of and behind the door. The feeling of working is so good. Wang Zhong held a broom and wore a straw hat on his head. Looking at the fruits of his labor, he felt quite satisfied. Good days were about to arrive. Although the missions in the early stages of this life were troublesome, at least he had survived. In the future, he would plant some land and save some money. When the time came, he would start a small business. With the city lord's protection, everything would go smoothly. There shouldn't be any disasters, right? These days, Fat Cow, who had burned down their house, was also reported by Wang Zhong. Fat Cow and his father were both arrested. The last enemy was also gone. Wang Zhong breathed out a sigh of relief. Finally, he had made a name for himself. Su-san. Right at this moment, Lu Shang's voice sounded. Young Mistress Lu, why are you all here? Where's Su Xiaolan? Wang Zhong was a bit puzzled. Su Xiaolan had said that she would come back with her mother today. Why wasn't she here? Sorry, Xiaolan and her mother are doing quite well at my place. I'm busy over there, so I let them stay there. I've also given them some money for their work. Lu Shang's plan was very perfect. Even if you and Su Xiaolan are in love with each other, if the two of you don't see each other, you won't have a chance sooner or later, right? I see. Wang Zhong nodded. If Su Xiaolan was working there, she must have stayed there because she was paid well. She asked me to come and tell you that she'll come back to see you when she's free, Lu Shang said. Oh, sorry to trouble you, young Mistress Lu. Actually, you can just get a servant to tell me about such a small matter. I don't have anything to do anyway, and I'd like to see how your place is like. The scenery is quite beautiful. Lu Shang looked at the scenery in the distance. At this moment, a servant girl cleverly brought over some pastries. Young Master Su, these are the pastries my young mistress brought for you when she came over. Wang Zhong was very surprised. He didn't expect Lu Shang to be so polite. Perhaps she was thanking him for coming up with the idea for her. Wang Zhong didn't think in the direction of a man and a woman. After all, those who knew Lu Shang knew that this woman was proud and arrogant. She didn't even like so many bootlickers. He was just a poor farmer, so poor that he only had 1 acre of land. What did he have to deserve her attention? As they ate the pastries, the servant girl cleverly said that she needed to go to the washroom. She left to create an opportunity for Lu Shang. Su-san, you finished planting all these fields? Lu Shang tried to find a topic to talk about. Yes, I've almost harvested by the end of the year. Wang Zhong revealed a happy smile. Are you interested in coming to my place? Your place? That's right. No matter how much land you plant here, I'm afraid you won't be able to develop too much. However, if you come to my place, you'll be able to display your greatest strength. You'll be able to earn a lot of money and live a good life. What do you think? Sounds good, but forget it. Wang Zhong rejected without hesitation. Going to the city lord's residence was equivalent to selling himself. It was easy to enter but difficult to leave. Why should he make himself uncomfortable? Although he would definitely be rich by then, he had many ways to do so. There was no need to do this. Most importantly, he still had to take care of Su Xiaolan. There was no other way. This was his goal in this life. Lu Shang was a bit surprised. Wang Zhong actually rejected her. For a moment, she felt a bit displeased. This Wang Zhong had repeatedly rejected her. Did he really think that she, Lu Shang, was easy to talk to? Su-san, I'm doing this for your own good. Why don't you think about it carefully? There's nothing to think about. We can work together. But if I go to your place, I'm sorry. I like to be more free. Have you not considered me? Sure enough, I'm inviting you personally. Actually, you're so smart, so you should understand. These words were very straightforward. Wang Zhong was a bit surprised. Could it be that she had taken a liking to him? So she was inviting him? Lu Shang blushed as Wang Zhong stared at her. She turned her head and said, After all, I admire people with insight. Don't think too much. Wang Zhong finally understood Lu Shang's intentions. Lu Shang's words were a little too obvious. However, if that was the case, he couldn't leave. He still had to take care of Su Xiaolan, and he didn't want to have anything to do with Lu Shang. Ahem, I'm not thinking too much. Instead, I'm a bit scared. Actually, I'm not rejecting you. I really like to be more free. You. Lu Shang didn't expect Wang Zhong to be so tactless. She was really going to die from anger. One had to know that she had come personally to discuss this matter. Her initial thought was that Wang Zhong would definitely be very surprised to see her come personally. Especially after hearing her suggestion, he would be like those bootlickers, so excited that he would directly kneel down and lick her toes. That would be great. She didn't expect this guy to reject her. Su-san, do you think I'm not beautiful? Lu Shang questioned. Wang Zhong was a bit dumbfounded. Miss Lu, you're very beautiful. Then you think my personality isn't good? Oh, why do you say that, Miss Lu? Wang Zhong was a bit speechless. Did this woman eat gunpowder? Her attitude was suddenly so bad. He didn't have any ambiguous relationship with her, right? Why was she questioning him like this? You've rejected me time and time again. If that's not because you hate me, then what is it? So that's what she was thinking. Wang Zhong sighed. Girls were girls, after all. They were too petty. You're mistaken. I don't hate you, but I do want to live a more carefree life. If you want me to work at your house today, then forget it. But if you need my help in the future, I won't shirk my duty. With that, Wang Zhong lifted the hoe. If there's nothing else, I'll go farm. Humph. Lu Shang snorted coldly and turned to leave. The popularity of the bandits slowly subsided. A month later, the last bandit on the mountain was eliminated. Lu Bai's army had won a huge victory, and his prestige had greatly increased. However, what was in front of him wasn't a celebration, but a way to improve the livelihood of the people. Because of the successive disasters, the wealth of the people in this area had long been hollowed out. Everyone was so poor that the former city was now lifeless. For this reason, Lu Bai gathered the strategists in his residence and began to ask for a solution. I propose to reduce taxes. Lu Bai immediately shook his head. The imperial court hasn't been doing well these years, especially when the north is still dealing with the harassment of the neighboring countries. If we reduce taxes, I'm afraid it will affect the war on the front lines. Chapter 533. I suggest we increase the area of the wasteland and plant more crops. Yes. It snowed last year. If we increase the planting area, we will definitely have a great harvest. Lu Bai rolled his eyes as the strategists chimed in. These people might as well not have said anything. How could he not know about increasing the planting area? The problem was, what about water? The reason why there had been consecutive droughts in this place was because there was not much rainfall. What was the use of increasing the planting area without water? In addition, they did not have enough manpower and seeds. These were all problems. For a moment he was speechless. These so-called strategists usually bragged about how awesome they were. But when it came to using them, none of them could do it. He could not help but think of Susan. He remembered that his daughter had talked to him about Susan. Susan had helped her solve the in-business problem, and had even said that he could solve the livelihood problem. During this time, he had been dealing with the bandit problem, and had not asked about it in detail. Now that he saw his own strategists being so brainless, he snorted and turned to leave. After instructing the servants to find his daughter, Lu Shang entered the room and asked, "Father, you were looking for me?" "My dear daughter, how is the roasted fish at the inn?" "It's all right, but it's all because our prices are cheap. I don't think the other inns are doing well. Father, in my opinion, everyone is out of money. Everyone has had a hard time these years," Lu Shang said bluntly. "Sai, I know that. Otherwise there would not be so many bandit problems. I'm just worried that if this continues, there will be another bandit problem next year, if there is still no improvement. If that happens, the imperial court will probably be dissatisfied with me. Father, what should we do?" Lu Shang was a little anxious. His father was already old. If not for his meritorious service in suppressing the bandits, the imperial court would have long wanted to replace him. If he was replaced, the Lu family's power would be greatly reduced. Originally, Lu Bai had thought that Lu Shang would take care of the Lu family's business while his son, Lu Niuqing, would inherit his mantle and become the city lord. Unfortunately, his son's body was too weak, and to become the city lord, one had to compete in martial arts. Because the city lord was a defensive general, a weak scholar like him could not lead at all. Therefore, Lu Bai wanted to survive for as long as he could to expand his power, and strive for his son to become the city lord. However, things did not go as planned. Who knew that these years would be so hard? It made his position as the city lord somewhat unstable. When he thought up to this point, Lu Bai sighed and said, "Didn't you say that Susan told you that he had a way? Didn't you ask him later?" "Ask Susan? Ask my ass." Lu Shang cursed in her heart. Ever since she had suffered defeat at the hands of Wang Zhong several times, she hated Wang Zhong to death. She thought that Wang Zhong was just a young man who liked to show off. She swore that she would not have anything to do with him in the future. "I didn't ask." "Daughter, didn't you say last time that Susan is very smart and different from the other noble young masters? When did he trick you?" "No, it's just that he's too unromantic. I saw that he's capable, so I specially invited him over to work. I didn't expect him to be willing to stay at home and farm. In my opinion, he has no ambition, and won't have any great ability in the future." Ha ha ha. Lu Bai understood that his daughter had been humiliated by Wang Zhong, so she felt uncomfortable, and was throwing a tantrum. "I know. I'll ask him myself in the next few days." In the end, Lu Bai was the kind of person who thirsted for talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so many strategists at home. After Lu Bai came out, he found his daughter's maid, and asked her what she had suffered at the hands of Susan to make her so angry. "Master, this servant doesn't know." The maid and Lu Shang grew up together, and were as close as sisters. Naturally, she wouldn't speak carelessly. Lu Bai knew this and nodded. "I'm just asking. I won't say anything." "This servant really doesn't know." You spend all day with the young miss. How could you not know? If you really don't know, what's the use of having you?" Lu Bai snorted and said, "The butler's son is looking for a wife. I see that you're not young anymore. Since you're of no use, I'll give you to him." The butler's son was mentally retarded, and had a pockmarked face. If she married him, wouldn't she be ruined? Immediately, the maid knelt down and cried, "Master, don't be like this. Whoa, I don't want to leave the young miss." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Yes, master. It's like this. That day the young miss went to the village." The maid roughly explained the matter. However, she was also very smart and didn't say it in detail. However, Lu Bai could hear the important point between the lines. His daughter was interested in Su San. Lu Bai frowned. Although he admired Wang Zhong, it didn't mean that he was willing to marry his daughter to him. After all, the names of the two families were not compatible. How could they be suitable? Fortunately, Wang Zhong was very satisfied with what he did and directly rejected his daughter. Not bad. This young man's way of doing things was indeed satisfactory. He knew that he wasn't good enough for Lu Shang, so he maintained his rejection. I understand. You can leave. Lu Bai waved his hand and chased the maid away. That afternoon, he and his subordinates rode to the village where Wang Zhong lived. At this moment, Su Xiaolan was also on her way home. Previously, Wang Zhong had told her to stop working at the inn after a while. Because even if she worked until she died, she would still be an employee. This wasn't a good day. The mission hadn't been completed yet. Therefore, according to Wang Zhong's words, they were going to start their own business. Su Xiaolan originally wanted to muddle through. She would be able to eat 2 meals a day to fill her stomach and take care of her mother in her old age. That's right, her wish was that simple. In this era, poor people only ate 2 meals a day. Later, Wang Zhong came to find her. Thinking that the house at home was finished, she indeed should go back and take a look. Thus, she bid farewell to her mother who was working here and went home to take a look. Wow, so beautiful. Once she arrived at the new house and saw the new bed, new table, and new cooking stove, Su Xiaolan's face surged with excitement. The previous house was too shabby. It leaked in during the rainy days and in the winter. It couldn't be any more shabby. However, without money, their family could only live in a humble abode. However, everything in front of her was really too beautiful. She couldn't bear to leave. These were all made for you by the craftsmen of the city lord's mansion. Oh right, I've also planted the land for you and developed it. Wang Zhong brought Su Xiaolan to the back of the mountain. The original barren land had been cleaned up very cleanly. In its place, many crops were growing on it. Heavens, you've done so much these days? Su Xiaolan really couldn't believe it. Actually, she didn't know that it was very troublesome for ordinary people to develop barren land. But it was very convenient for Wang Zhong. As a rat spirit, he had long become in existence like the rat king of this area. When he raised his arm and shouted, all the rats would listen to him. Thus, these days, the rat pack had bitten all the roots of this patch of wild grass. Wang Zhong's work was also much easier. This large patch of land is our land. In the future, we won't have to starve anymore. When the harvest next year is good, we can even start a rice business. For some reason, after becoming a rat, Wang Zhong wanted to start a rice business. After thinking for a long time, Wang Zhong guessed that it was because he was now a rat. Our land is now. Su Xiaolan was very excited. She looked at Wang Zhong and said, "Little rat, thank you. We're friends. What's the use of saying thank you?" Wang Zhong smiled. No, you don't understand. Ever since I was young, I've been living a hard life. Our family didn't have enough to eat or warm clothes. But ever since I met you, my life has been getting better and better. Suddenly, Su Xiaolan hugged Wang Zhong. Thank you, little rat. Wang Zhong was helpless. This Su Xiaolan was really too sentimental. Xiaolan, don't you dislike me for being a rat? Dislike? Why would I dislike you? I think rats are very cute. This was called interacting with the same thing more often. Naturally, you won't be afraid. And if you get along well, you'll develop a good impression of it. Many people were afraid of rats because they hadn't been in close contact with them. Wang Zhong was speechless. She actually called me cute. Clop, clop, clop. At this time, the sound of horses came from the door. The two of them went out to take a look. It turned out that the city lord and his subordinates had arrived. Wahahaha, Susan, this house looks pretty good. Lu Bai jumped off his horse and roared with a thunderous voice. Greetings to the city lord. Greetings to the city lord. Wang Zhong and Su Xiaolan bowed. No need to be so polite. Lu Bai was very easygoing. He waved his hand and said, Thanks to you, the bandits have been dealt with, and the imperial court has rewarded me with many things. I'm also here to express my gratitude. Although Lu Bai said this, Wang Zhong knew in his heart that Lu Bai had already rewarded him. This time, he definitely wasn't here to express his gratitude again. As a big shot, if he really had such a good heart, he would have been hacked to death long ago. Wang Zhong smiled. "You're too polite, city lord. Please come in and have some tea." After entering the house, Wang Zhong picked up the tea. Lu Bai took a sip and looked at Su Xiaolan. "You're Su San's sister, Xiaolan?" "Yes, city lord." This was the first time Su Xiaolan had come into close contact with a big shot, so she was very nervous. If there's anything your family needs, you can tell me," Lu Bai said. "Actually, it's nothing. It's already very good," Su Xiaolan replied. "Su-san, what about you?" Wang Zhong shook his head. Lu Bai stood with his hands behind his back and walked around the house. From time to time, he would give a few comments and ask if Wang Zhong had any problems. If there were any problems, he had to tell him. After talking for a long time, Lu Bai finally let out a long sigh and got down to business. "Su-san, I'm here to ask you something. That day, you talked to my daughter about the problem of the people's livelihood. From what I hear, you seem to have a solution." "That's right. Can you tell me about it?" If he could improve the livelihood of the people here, Lu Bai was sure that his useless son would definitely be able to become the city lord. When that time came, his Lu family would still be the king of this place. Those enemies could only hide in the shadows and live in constant fear. Chapter 534. Finally, they got down to business. Wang Zhong had already guessed that Lu Bai would focus on improving the people's livelihood after dealing with the bandits. But he didn't expect it to be so soon, and he even came directly to him. Sure enough, those so-called strategists at home were all trash. Wang Zhong didn't want to hide anything and said, "City Lord, I have indeed thought of a solution. If it can be implemented smoothly, not only will the people be rich, but our city's economic strength will also increase." "Tell me about it." Lu Bai was a little excited. The young man in front of him always gave him surprises. Wang Zhong stretched out his finger and said, "First of all, before the people have money, they have to eat their fill. Only when they are full can they start producing. Why hasn't everyone eaten their fill these past few years? It's not because of the war, nor is it because of laziness, but because of the drought. In this area, there wasn't much precipitation every year, but it was a flat area with plenty of land. Because of the lack of water, there was a large area of empty land, but the production wasn't high. I know it's because of the drought, but isn't it because there isn't enough precipitation here?" Lu Bai really didn't understand what Wang Zhong wanted to do, because what Wang Zhong said was a fact that everyone knew. The lack of precipitation here wasn't a secret. Thus, Wang Zhong came up with an idea, and that was to dig canals for every village. Digging canals was a concept that only existed in modern agriculture. Especially after World War II, every village in the south dug canals to solve the problem of water shortage. With canals, the water after the precipitation would be stored in the canals, and the canals could also be used to raise fish and prawns. Not only would it solve the water shortage problem, but it would also give the people another source of food. It was simply killing two birds with one stone. "Dig canals." Lu Bai stroked his beard and said, "Can this really work?" There wasn't much science in ancient times, so they didn't know that gathering water together would reduce the evaporation of water. Of course, but the canals have to be dug in low-lying areas, so that the water can gather together on rainy days. I can get the villages to implement this. Wang Zhong continued. The second method is to dig more wells, preferably one for every household. After coming to this world, Wang Zhong realized that there weren't many wells in this world. It wasn't that people didn't want to dig wells, but it was because there wasn't enough underground water. Many people dug a lot of land, but found that there was no water. Sigh. After listening to Wang Zhong's idea, Lu Bai secretly thought that young people were indeed young. How could they not have thought of digging a well? It was really inefficient. Therefore, he shook his head and explained the situation. Then he said, "So I'm afraid that digging a well won't be easy to implement." Wang Zhong smiled and said, "As for where to dig, leave it to me. Leave it to you. Lu Bai was stunned. He didn't expect Wang Zhong to have such a method. Susan, can you really tell where the water is? Of course. Wang Zhong was very confident. After becoming the Rat King, he understood the situation of the entire area. Rats were very good at digging holes, especially those in the wild. They dug very deep holes, and sometimes they dug underground water. Therefore, it was easy for him to know where it was easy to dig a well and where it wasn't. Looking at Wang Zhong's confident appearance, to be honest, Lu Bai felt that it was unbelievable at first. He wanted to trust Wang Zhong, but seeing where it was easy to dig a well was simply a fantasy. Therefore, he didn't quite believe it. Susan, it's not that I don't want to believe you, but since ancient times, there have been many people who were said to be able to see wells. But in the end, they were all proven to be swindlers. Susan, I think very highly of you. You must not do this for temporary success. Wang Zhong understood that Lu Bai was worried that he was trying to cheat money. He was speechless. If he wanted to take a shortcut, he could just steal. Was there a need to do this? Don't worry, City Lord. If you don't believe me, I'll implement it in my house first. Then, every family in the village will have a well to use and water to drink. Okay, if you can really succeed, I'll make you a city protector. Then Lu Bai chuckled and said, I know you don't like restrictions, so this position doesn't mean to restrict you. It's just that it'll be more convenient for you to exercise your rights in the future. At the same time, you're also considered one of my people. I don't dare to say anything about other places. But here, you can rest assured that no one will dare to touch you. Wang Zhong had lived here for so long, so he naturally knew what a city protector was. The so-called city protector was a direct subordinate of the city lord, and was responsible for the city lord. This position gave him a lot more freedom, so Wang Zhong was very satisfied and nodded to express his gratitude. The two of them carefully discussed the details. Then, the city lord's residence sent a craftsman to dig a well in the front yard of Su Xiaolan's house. 3 days later, the well was finally dug. Looking at the clear spring overflowing from the bottom, everyone was filled with excitement. With water, it meant that they didn't have to worry about running out of water. As long as it wasn't an extreme drought, they wouldn't have to worry about running out of water. This news spread like wildfire. Everyone in the village knew that there was a person called Su San here. This person was very smart, and could tell at a glance where there was water, and could dig a well. Therefore, Wang Zhong had a new nickname at some point. Everyone called him the ditch-digging expert. This didn't mean that he could dig ditches, but that he could tell where there was more water. There's water here. Dig here. Although there's water here, the rock at the bottom is hard. There's no suitable place near your house, but there's a suitable place under your dining table. There's no suitable water under your house, but there's a place in your garden. Wang Zhong walked around the village. Every time he went to a house, he would show them where to dig water. Then these people would start digging on their own. Due to the low efficiency of ancient times, digging a well usually took about a day or so. About 10 days later, almost every house in the small village had dug a well. This news spread to the neighboring villages. The village chief and some villagers brought many gifts and found Wang Zhong. Young Master Su, please help us. Our village is also short of water. Please help us take a look. The old village chief begged Wang Zhong with snot and tears. Actually, he didn't need to do this. Wang Zhong would definitely help. After all, he was now the city protector. He glanced at the gifts he brought. There were quite a lot of food, oil, pork, mutton, and even some chickens and ducks. They were all alive. Xiaolan, take all of these. Oh. Now Su Xiaolan had become Wang Zhong's little follower, accompanying Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong stood with his hands behind his back and said to the old village chief, Don't worry. Serving the people has been my dream since I was young. I'll go after I'm done with my matters. How many days? 2 days later. Okay, thank you, young Master Su. Wang Zhong gave himself 2 days. Of course, it wasn't to deal with the matters at hand. It was to let the rats investigate the underground water. That night, Wang Zhong went over and transformed into a rat to interact with the local rats. In fact, there was a rat king in every realm. These rat kings were usually larger in size and lived in large nests. There were many female rats inside. Wang Zhong learned about the rat kings from the other rats. He went to find them and asked them to help investigate the underground water. Investigating the underground water is also beneficial to us. Humans can grow food. If they can eat their fill, we can eat our fill. Wang Zhong thought that the Rat King should know such a simple and easy to understand principle, right? Unfortunately, he overestimated the Rat King's intelligence. Why can we eat our fill when humans are full? What are you talking about? Are you trying to trick me? I think you're tired of living. How dare you come to my house? I'll bite you to death. After hearing the Rat King's words, Wang Zhong was speechless. He estimated that the Rat King's intelligence was not as high as the Rat King's. At least, the Rat King knew to use the rats to feed it, but this Rat King didn't know at all. Maybe this is the intelligence that rats should have. The reason why the Rat King was so smart before was because he had drunk the spirit spring water there. Otherwise, he would have been like the Rat King, still stuck at the level of fighting for a piece of land. The Rat King was easily dealt with, and the group of female rats in the nest were all trembling in fear. King, you will be our king from now on. We will only serve you. We will give birth to many little rats. Come on, King. The female rats were all affectionate. Rats, like ordinary animals, also worshipped the strong. The fact that Wang Zhong was able to easily bite their Rat King to death had already proven his strength and ability to reproduce. To be honest, out of the instinct of the rat's body, Wang Zhong really felt that these rats were handsome when he looked at them. But he was still a human after all. At least deep down he was still a human. So in the end, he didn't touch the female rats. After ordering a group of rats to search for underground water, the rats in this area started a vigorous search for water. 2 days later, Wang Zhong and Su Xiaolan went to the neighboring village. As soon as they arrived, they were warmly welcomed by the village chief and the villagers. The villagers were all carrying hoes and shovels, ready to go. As long as Wang Zhong pointed out where to dig, they would dig there. Wang Zhong first went to the village chief's house. According to the rat's report last night, the village chief's backyard was full of water. Here, dig. At Wang Zhong's order, a few villagers rushed up and started digging. Then Wang Zhong walked to each house. This village was smaller than the one Su Xiaolan lived in, so he finished walking in just 1 day. 3 days later, good news came. The wells in the neighboring village had been dug, and now, like here, every house had water. The news spread further and further, and Wang Zhong's nickname also changed from Little Ditch Digging Expert to Ditch Digging Master. Many people were unusually polite to him when they saw him. Because it was Wang Zhong, they didn't have to walk long distances to fetch water. Chapter 535. Other than teaching everyone how to dig wells, under Wang Zhong's suggestion, the city lord manor also called upon the village chiefs to start digging ditches in the various villages and counties. This campaign was given a nice name by Wang Zhong. It was called the Rational Water Storage Plan for Crop Growth. This name was simple and easy to understand. For the illiterate villagers, there was no need for further explanation. Of course, because this project was too big, the city lord manor didn't give a set amount of time. Instead, they let every villager take turns digging ditches. This way, no one was left behind, and the ditches were dug every day. As of now, Wang Zhong had already become a famous person in his hometown. The ditch-digging grandmaster was the respectful title people had for him. The plan to improve people's livelihood had been implemented, and Wang Zhong had also started his plan to make Su Xiaolan rich. He earned quite a lot of money by giving pointers to people to dig wells. Thus, he brought Su Xiaolan to the county town and prepared to open a rice shop. According to his thinking, rice belonged to eating, so there would be no lack of business, no matter the time. In his previous world, although he hadn't opened such a business, he had come into contact with rice shop owners who opened rice shops and had good business. Unfortunately, Su Xiaolan didn't seem to care about opening a rice shop, so Wang Zhong was the one who took care of it. The location of the rice shop was found. The previous owner of the shop also quit, But this shop belonged to the Lu family. After hearing this news, things were much simpler for Wang Zhong, so he went to find Lu Shang. The reason why he didn't find Lu Bai was that as the city lord, Lu Bai was very busy every day. Why would he bother with a small shop? Moreover, business matters were basically managed by Lu Shang. So of course he went to find Lu Shang. I'm not renting. Lu Shang sat in a tea house and looked at Wang Zhong, who came over to ask her to rent the shop. She was secretly pleased. You ignored me before. You rejected me before. And now I'm rejecting you. Wang Zhong was stunned. He originally thought that his relationship with the Lu family was very good. He didn't expect it to be like this. Why not? Wang Zhong couldn't figure it out. He had inquired about the shop, and no one was renting it. There was also a notice on the door. But why was it like this? Lu Shang took a sip of tea and said slowly, I haven't decided yet. I'm wondering if I should start some business for this shop. I've been locked up for 2 months already. Wang Zhong cursed in his heart. Seeing Lu Shang like this, Wang Zhong guessed that he had offended her somehow. Actually, Lu Shang's rejection of Wang Zhong wasn't a genuine rejection. After all, Wang Zhong had helped her father a lot, and he had also helped her revitalize the inn. Now the inn's roasted fish business was very good. His rejection of Wang Zhong was purely out of revenge. He was waiting for Wang Zhong to beg him. After he had his fill, he would pretend to pity Wang Zhong and agree to rent the shop to Wang Zhong. This was Lu Shang's ultimate goal. It could be considered her bad taste. Unfortunately, to her surprise, Wang Zhong nodded and turned to leave. If you don't want to rent it, then forget it. Looking at Wang Zhong's back view, Lu Shang was dumbfounded. Beg me a few times and I'll rent it. Lu Shang was very unhappy. She wanted to chase after Wang Zhong and ask him why he didn't beg her. She would rent it if he begged her a few times. But wouldn't that be very embarrassing? So be it. I want to see what you'll do. Lu Shang said angrily in her heart. At this moment, Wang Zhong was really amazed. To think that he had helped Lu Shang. His conscience had been eaten by a dog. He could tell that Lu Shang was doing this on purpose. But he really didn't understand why Lu Shang was doing this. How had he offended her? In the end, he turned to leave because he didn't need to beg Lu Shang. He didn't believe that Lu Bai wouldn't give him face. If your daughter threw a tantrum, Lu Bai wouldn't do it, right? Just as he arrived at the entrance of the city lord's mansion, he unexpectedly met an acquaintance. Lu Nyoqing, city lord Lu Bai's son. He and Lu Shang were twins. However, this pair of twins was very different. Lu Shang was wise and valiant. He was good at doing business and had a good reputation in the city, but this Lu Nyoqing couldn't do it. Since young, because he was the only son, he lived a life of luxury. He had developed a brainless style. Many people said behind his back that he couldn't do anything and was the best at playing with him. However, this person's nature was still good. Fortunately, the Lu family had strict rules. You could play around, but if you dared to run amok, Lu Bai wouldn't let you off easily. It was precisely because of the good family rules that the Lu family had a good reputation in this area. Lu Nyoqing didn't know what was going on. These few days, his face was extremely pale. He looked very weak and his back was hunched. He didn't have the aura of a noble young master at all. Young Master Lu, where are you going? Wang Zhong stopped Lu Nyoqing. Young Master Su. Lu Nyoqing's eyes lit up as he walked over. Although this guy couldn't do anything, he liked to make friends. Young Master Su, are you looking for my father? Lu Nyoqing asked. Yes. Is the city lord around? My father is out. He went to the neighboring city to discuss some trade matters. When will he be back? Wang Zhong asked. In fact, Lu Nyoqing himself didn't know how long it would take, but in order to show that he was capable, he said, it will probably take a lot of time. Young Master Su, what's the matter? You can tell me. His father always taught Lu Nyoqing to make friends with capable people, so that he would have support when he inherited the city lord's position. Although Lu Nyoqing was stupid, he still understood this simple logic. Among the younger generation, the women were led by his sister. If Wang Zhong dared to say that he was third, no one would dare to say that they were first or second. This was the difference. Therefore, it was best to take this opportunity to make friends with Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong thought that Lu Niuqing was also considered a member of the Lu family and could make decisions. Therefore, he talked about the shop. Finally, he said, I think that shop has been closed for a long time. If you can rent it to me, I, Su-san, will be very grateful. This was a small matter. Lu Niuqing was very happy. No one wanted to rent the shop. If Su-san was willing to rent it, it would be great. At the same time, he would also be doing him a favor. This is a small matter. I can make the decision. Young Master Su can just move in. As for the rent, before Wang Zhong could finish, Lu Niuqing waved his hand. In order to show that he had the right to speak in the Lu family, he said domineeringly, It's just a shop. Young Master Su can rent it first. It won't be too late to talk about other things when my father returns. Wang Zhong didn't expect Lu Niuqing to be so forthright. He had a good impression of him. Young Master Lu is a straightforward person. I am very grateful. It's no problem. By the way, I will hold a banquet tonight. Let's drink a few cups. Wang Zhong had to give him face. He nodded, okay. But first, I will say that I don't drink. Once I drink, my whole body will get red rashes. If that's the case, that's fine too. The matter of the shop went very smoothly. When Lu Shang received the news, he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Why was he angry? Because she didn't see the scene of Wang Zhong begging her humbly. This made her very uncomfortable. This brother of mine really can't do anything right. Lu Shang cursed in a low voice. Although he was angry, Lu Shang only wanted to vent his anger. He wouldn't really expose Wang Zhong. 10 days later, the rice shop finally opened for business. The shop was now managed by Zhou Chui and Su Xiaolan. They even invited 2 people. As for Wang Zhong, he was limited by the fact that he couldn't transform into a human for long periods of time. He still preferred to stay beside the spirit spring. These days, he also found a way to carry the spirit spring, and that was to pour the spring water into a water bag. On the day of the opening, Wang Zhong naturally presided over it personally. The first day of the opening was indeed very busy. Wang Zhong was almost always busy. He arranged the storage of the rice and instructed the workers on how to place the goods. Su Xiaolan was at the counter working on an abacus while his mother, Zhou Chui, stood beside her. At this time, Zhou Chui was beaming with joy. The good days had finally arrived. They had their own shop. That wasn't all. Her daughter even found a capable young man. The 2 of them were about the same age, and Wang Zhong was also capable. The more she looked at him, the more satisfied she was. Xiaolan, this Su-san is quite good, especially to you. Look at him so busy. When are you guys going to get married? What do you mean, when are we going to get married? Although Su Xiaolan understood, she pretended to be dumb because she was shocked and embarrassed. Zhou Chui was speechless. Her daughter was usually quite smart. Why was she so silly now? This Su-san is so good to you. Don't tell me you don't feel anything? Silly child, such a good man, you have to hold on to him well. Mother. Su Xiaolan's face was bright red. Actually, she was also a bit conflicted at this time. She knew very well that Su-san was just a rat, so she felt weird. But emotionally, she still quite liked Wang Zhong. What, you're not happy? Let me tell you. A lot of people have asked matchmakers to go over to Su-san to propose marriage. Even landlord Huang's 2 daughters want to marry him. Zhou Chui said angrily. Clearly, she felt that although her daughter wasn't bad, she couldn't compare to Su-san at all. Moreover, Su-san was marrying 2 at once. Wasn't this bullying? If they want to marry, then let them marry, Su Xiaolan said carelessly. Are you trying to anger your mother to death? People are throwing themselves at him like they're going to the market. But you don't care when he's rich. How can you be like this? Mother, what are you saying? Sigh. I'm also doing this for your own good. If it weren't for Su-san, we wouldn't be living so well. In the future, you have to be more proactive. What's done can't be undone. Su Xiaolan was completely speechless, but at the same time she hesitated. He's a rat, is this okay? A lot of customers came today. They all came to take care of business for Wang Zhong's sake. After working for half a day, Wang Zhong took a sip of spring water to replenish his spirit power. Congratulations, young Master Su. The voice was sarcastic. Wang Zhong looked up. Whoosh, it was Lu Shang. Miss Lu, I was really scared to death that you could come here, Wang Zhong said calmly. Lu Shang was so angry that smoke almost came out of her nose. This guy was deliberately angering her. She said unhappily, don't be scared to death. I'm not looking for you. I'm looking for Xiaolan to play with. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.